Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. So now we'll move on to roll call, starting at the end of the table.
Lauren Ramirez, present.
Janie, Ruddy, present.
Derek Bars.
Christy, Chong.
Furry, present.
LaShakia Moore.
Okay. So our first up here, I want to welcome Supervisor of Elections Katie Linhart to come up to the table here to tell us about the Voter's Guide cover design contest that we're all going to participate in today.
Well, hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is our 15th annual Voter Guide cover design contest selection by the school board, and 3 of you are new. So this will be a first time for you guys, but we have the designs out in the hallway on the tables. So it's a little bit informal. You're going to get a paper clip. You're going to get 3 paper clips each. And then your favorite, if you have a favorite among the designs that are on display, you just put your paper clip on the top of the picture. And whichever one wins, that will be our new cover for the Voter Guide.
Exciting.
So it's a really great program in our schools. These are submissions by students in digital design classes at FPC and Matanzas. So Taylor Pogue and Amanda Johnston are the teachers of digital design, and they gave their students an assignment to create the Voter Guide cover. So it's a really great opportunity for a real-world design project in our schools, and also gives the opportunity for students to engage a bit in the electoral process and learn more about civic engagement. So it's a great partnership with our office and the school district, so I'm glad to present this to you guys today.
All right, we're excited
Thank you
to
very
participate. Yes. So are you ready for us to vote?
Let's
okay.
go.
All right, let's go.
Oh, we're voting like now.
Right now.
Right now.
The president.
They're out there, there's a hall set up. We don't.
Votes have been cast?
Yeah.
No?
And we will find out the winner, and the winner will be present and before the board on the 22nd.
Oh, good.
At the night meeting of supervisor elections. She will be there, and they'll have a copy, and we'll know the winner. Oh,
Well, we have a tie.
Oh, boy. Has this ever happened before?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, so you have to do it again.
Okay.
Yep, so this is the tie,
Okay.
and I can do a recount, but it really was 3 and 3.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the tie. So, I guess you guys can,
Okay,
well, yeah, what we have to do is you have to vote again.
all right.
but
As
one time
in,
now.
one time now, yeah. And in the past, what we've done is recognize both students because it was a tie.
Right.
But we have to have one,
Sure.
guys. I only have one voter guide.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was still close, but with the Eagle and Bill of Rights won with 4-2.
Okay.
So that's
All
the
right.
winner. I don't know who the student is. It's anonymous.
Well, whoever they are, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, the meeting at the next meeting.
All right.
Katie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate this. It's always a fun thing to do every
It
year.
is. It is.
See you on the 22nd.
All right. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Take care. Thanks.
Okay. So that now moves us up to the changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I do have a couple. Board, I asked that we move item 11.01 to after public comment, that is the insurance trust, as well as items 19.01 and 14.01, which are our Neola policies, to follow right after that, and then for us to flow with the rest of the agenda. So if these items are accepted, it will be 11.01, 19.01, 14.01, and then we would move into finance.
Okay, so we need a motion to move forward with the agenda as amended.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bars and a second by Ms. Ruddy. And all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we'll move forward with this agenda. So that leads us now to public comment. Do we have anybody sign up for public comment today? No, okay. So we will close public comment and move on with the amended agenda. And that leads us to 11.01, and that will be Mr. Ouellette. Insurance trust update. Welcome. Yeah, have a seat there.
Board Chair, Superintendent. I'm here with Mr. Albritton from the Insurance Trust, and absolute pleasure. This gentleman is a fountain of knowledge, and he's probably forgotten more than I know about insurance. And he's here to talk today a little bit about the Insurance Trust and some of the exciting issues that even are newer from our last talk.
We've got some great updates.
Oh,
So without further ado,
So I think probably a good place to start is, you guys haven't heard from us before. Maybe give you a small little bit of a backstory. We've been working, Florida School Board Association has been working to develop a health trust since 2009. And one school district joined it. It didn't grow as everybody had hoped. It was lovingly referred to as SHIP, F-SHIP. And then fast forward 11 years, we were brought into that school district to help them resolve some of their internal issues. We are best practices and compliance consultants. We design and implement solution sets. We're not agents, we're not carriers. Think of us kind of like subject matter experts. So we were brought into that school district. We resolve their problems, and then the school district says to us, why aren't other people joining the trust? So we set out on a 2-year adventure to try to figure out why that was. And we met with way too many attorneys and regulators and other superintendents and school board members to try to figure out what was going on. We got that resolved. We restructured how the trust operated internally. We put some new, we like to call them guardrails in place to protect district by district by district, so there's no particularly bad outcomes in any one particular district. Roll it out. We had some other school districts join. Got it up to 4 districts. We ran into some problems because FSHIP was a subsidiary of FSBIT. You guys are familiar with FSBIT. FSBIT only has 13 members in it, member districts. 2 of the new health members were not members of FSBIT. They didn't get their property and casualty from FSBIT, but they got their health insurance from FSHIP. The long and the short of that is they weren't afforded representation on the health board trust because the bylaws of FSBIT did not allow that. You had to be a member of FSBIT. So FSBIT made the decision to spin the trust off and let the trust be standalone to resolve that issue. The trust was then spun off, and it was adopted and sponsored by the Florida Superintendent Association. The Florida Superintendent Association represents all 67 school districts. So that resolved the issue of no representation. We then rewrote the trust document to comply with what the Executive Committee of FADS wanted. The Executive Committee of FADS approved and adopted the trust. They are now the official sponsor, and they are the full backing of what we now call FLEET, the Florida Educator Health Trust. So that's technically what I'm here to talk to you about today. FLEET has sent me in to explain what this is, how it works, how it benefits school districts. FSBIT, the School Board Association, is still involved to some degree, as they were gracious enough to continue providing the accounting services and some of the administrative support, because remember, it was already doing that for 4 districts. So they agreed to continue doing those things for the same fee that they were being paid initially until we can get everything set up and running completely. So the vendors are everything is the same as it was under FSHIP. We just moved it and renamed it to the proper entity. So that's the update on that. What is FLEET? Like I just explained, it's created by the Superintendent Association. All 67 school districts are now, they're invited to apply. To apply, you must be self-insured. So there's a transition process that we take people through from fully insured to self-insured. We've done it with 3 school districts already successfully. This is designed to be a statewide comprehensive health insurance program that finally provides what we refer to as risk sharing. What the risk sharing allows you to do is leverage both the economy of scale of buying in a much, much bigger bulk unit, but it also allows you to create more statistical predictability. One of the issues I'm sure you guys have run into over time is the big ebbs and flows. One of the main reasons for that is because you just don't have enough data points to be statistically valid or statistically stable. This accomplishes those scenarios. All of the programs that we're building out are built by unbiased insurance industry experts. For example, the stop loss program that you're going to see a slide on in a few minutes was built by the experts that understand stop losses. These, we assembled the best of the best in this team. What we are rolling out has also been completely vetted and approved by the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation. That was great fun, having conversations with those folks. But we got that done. It's been approved by the FADS Legal Counsel. It's been approved by 3 other board attorneys. the trust document, how this fits together and works. The goal, obviously, is to reduce cost and increase the financial stability for each member district. That's how everything is designed. We practice full transparency and accountability. There are no secrets. That is something that was a problem for some of the other school districts early on. They wanted to be able to design their own program the way they wanted it, their own deductible, their own agent, their own everything. And by doing that, you had a potential for not all the full information being shared with the entire group who are risk sharing. So we built mechanisms to provide for that as well. Okay, now I'm ready to go. So currently, you are independently self-insured. That means you have school district operational costs. Think of that as your benefit staff. You have an insurance administrative cost, that's your ASO fee. You have your medical claims, and then you have your own individual stop loss. Next slide, please. So the way that works is it provides all the benefits that you guys are familiar with, but there are 4 problems that consistently go with you. And one is the district has to take on the majority of the operational processes, because if you're receiving just the ASO, a lot of times when you go from fully insured to self-insured, you lose some of those administrative supports. You guys have already been through that. You've got a little bit of an advantage on that because you've been self-insured long enough that you've already created a lot of the things you needed to create to overcome those things. You don't have an economy of scale for purchasing your stop loss, for example. When you do pay in a premium to the stop loss carrier, if you have a really, really good year, they keep all the money. If you have a really, really bad year, they bail you out. That was one of the things that we were charged to figure out how to get money back in really good years. And then the last one is you're just not big enough to have the law of large numbers to be fully credible to your claims. That statistical predictability I was talking about. Next slide, please. When a school district joins Fleet, what you're engaging in at that point in time is the economy of scale. You're at that point able to buy stop losses cheaper because Fleet as a whole has one agent. That one agent goes and negotiates stop loss premiums for the entire group at one time instead of each individual school district, for example. The cost comes down in that regard. You also have a shared cost program over the operational cost. Fleet starts taking on some of the operational responsibilities that was part of the individual program before, and it lowers the cost for the district in managing the operational cost. Think of that in terms of accounting. If you're doing accounting for all the school districts instead of just one, typically the cost is going to be a little bit cheaper for all the school districts. Next slide, please. So what this does by joining the Fleet program is the trust itself takes on some of those operational processes, making your district's life a little easier, and it brings an economy of scale on the purchases of commodities such as stop loss and pharmacy, okay? The dynamic you face is the stop loss carrier still keeps all the money at the end of the year, and you still don't have the statistical predictability to smooth out your program. So then that brings into this risk-sharing dynamic. This is what we spent the majority of our time talking to Office of Insurance Regulation about. How are we going to take 15 school districts and risk share and it be compliant with DOE laws and Florida insurance laws? How do we do that? So we spent a lot of time figuring out and getting the approval of Office of Insurance Regulation on how to do that. So we now have the way to bring in the risk-sharing piece. Bringing in the risk-sharing piece solves the last 2 questions of how are we going to keep the money in good years that you were paying stop loss carriers. that is through the risk-sharing program. So what you get when you come into fleet and you are in risk-sharing is you get the economy of scale, and you get the statistical predictability to be able to better manage that middle layer of expense that the stop-loss carrier was keeping all the money from. One more slide. So as you can see, we've worked for years to check every one of the boxes. We've got them all checked now. So we're officially launching. We've got the full endorsement support of the Superintendent Association. We are adding members and meeting with districts now. Now, to help you visualize everything I just said, because I know insurance is not everybody's favorite topic, so I've put it in a graph for you. We have proprietary data mines where we pull all the information from 112.08 reports for all of time for every government unit in Florida. We have the same thing for Auditor General reports. And we're able to take all that information and model out what the expected profitability or usefulness of a given program is. What you see on that graph, every dot is a school district. And the bottom axis is the number of employees or number of members on that school district's health plan. So the one all the way to my far right is, that one would represent Polk schools. And there's about 15,000 people at Polk schools, okay? That actually might be Osceola schools. Polk schools might be the one at 13,000. And then you go all the way to the other side and you go to the top, the very top dot up there. That is Washington schools, very small. The number on the axis, the 25% to the 0%, represents the percentage of your funding that you are currently spending on your stop-loss premium. So as you can see, Washington County Schools is spending far more of their funding every year buying a stop-loss premium than Polk Schools is. So the way this benefits is, if you imagine we took every single dot from 5,000 over and added them all together, we would be bigger than Polk Schools. When you do that, the stop-loss cost to the group as a whole goes from 23% down to less than 1%. In your perspective, so for you guys, based on your 112.08 report, you're spending right around $400 per employee per year on your stop loss. Okay? Polk is spending about 40. So there's a significant difference. Hardee schools and Washington County schools are spending $1,200 and $1,400 per year on their stop loss. So just this one example, and there's many, many examples of how establishing and running a trust effectively would create all these kinds of opportunities. This is just one example that most people can see and understand the value of being in a trust. So that is what Fleet is and what we've been working at, and we've got it up and running now.
Is this considered like healthcare sharing, or is it insurance? Does that make sense? Like MediShare, one of those?
Oh, no. This is, like, we work with Florida Blue, United Healthcare,
Okay,
Aetna.
so it is insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, and our stop-loss carriers are Sun Life, Gerber. I mean, these are all admitted, well-known. And each district chooses their own medical carrier. That's the reason we have so many different medical carriers. Is one of the other issues we ran into with school districts as we were talking to them is one district really, really likes Florida Blue and the other district really, really likes Aetna. And forcing the Aetna group to go to Florida Blue or vice versa was not very palatable to the districts. So we found a way where every carrier participates. So if you wanted to be with Florida Blue and Hardee wanted to be with United Healthcare, you can.
So when it comes to deductibles and stuff, that would be worked out with like Aetna or Blue Cross?
Every district sets, you have full autonomy of your insurance plan. You set your own deductible, you choose your own carrier. Some districts have agents that help them service the programs. Some don't. We're currently working with 3 different large agencies. We don't care who your agent is, pick who you want. We're going to give them a playbook on what they have to do to make sure you're compliant with Fleet as far as your open enrollments and checking your dependent eligibility verifications and those kind of things. But you pick your own.
So most of what you spoke about was the stop loss savings. And that's $400 a year for each enrolled member, but that's not going to move the needle for our staff in terms of our rising premium rates. So what can your organization do on those elements? And then how do you guys make your money then? Where is this, like we pay a member fee? How does that work?
So Fleet charges a flat per employee per month fee for running everything. We took all of the, for example, when you choose a PBM, a pharmacy benefit manager, typically there's a commission built into that an agent is making. One of the decisions that was made early on by what was then FSBIT, but is now FADS, they made the decision to net that number out and build it into a transparent per employee per month rate. So you know everything everybody's making. And it's all built into one per employee per month rate that varies depending on the size of the district, because the workload changes too. That's how we are paid. We're paid a flat per employee per month. We don't make any money on the back end. There's no bonuses from any carriers. We don't receive any compensation like that. Now, as far as how, when you mean staff, you mean all of your employees?
So for the teachers and staff who sign up for healthcare, my primary concern is that their premiums, their monthly premiums, are ever expanding, extremely high. And so this $400 per employee, that's great. Sounds like that's an administrative savings or a savings on the stop loss, but I'm wondering what you guys can do to help us get control of these premiums that our staff are having to pay in order to have insurance. Because even though we pay, our salaries are at the top end of districts, our health insurance premium is also at the top end of districts where they would make more money working somewhere else for less.
When you net all that together,
Correct.
they would. So I think it's important to draw a distinction between what we refer to as the contribution and the premium. The premium is what you're going to pay for your insurance. That is what your claims are and your administrative fees. There's not really, I mean, that number is what the claims are, and the administrative fees are what the administrative fees are. State requires you do ABC to have an insurance program. The administrative fees are going to reflect that, right? So that's what we refer to as your funding, or your easiest way to think of it is the premium. What an employee contributes against the premium has nothing to do with our ability to try to manage the premium. What we do as an organization, and what Fleet does, is manages the total premium to get it as low as possible. What an individual school district does on the contribution that an employee needs to make varies from district to district to district.
Sure, because it depends on how much we can kick in.
Correct.
Right, and I understand that. So, but it's getting to the point, right, every year 15% increase, right? It's becoming untenable for either party, right? So I don't care who we're sharing that pie with. I'd like to know how does your program, or how much can we perhaps look at lowering who's ever contributing towards the premium, the cost of the healthcare.
Okay, so now we've established we're talking about the premium, not the contribution. I'm much more comfortable talking about the premium. If you were to lower your stop loss premium, that is part of the administrative cost that goes into your premium. So imagine that you're paying $10,000 a year for an employee to have health insurance. That's your premium, is $10,000 a year. And we find a way through economy of scale and large numbers to drive that stop loss premium down $200. Well, now you're paying $9,800, not $10,000 anymore, because the stop loss premium is part of that $10,000.
So if I'm looking at the slide here where it says self-insured with fleet and risk share. So if I'm looking at that diagram, I don't know if you have that slide you can pull up there. Yeah, that one there. So if I'm understanding it, basically all the way up to medical claims, the way I'm understanding you saying, that's still, everything's the same. All this does is help us reduce our stop loss premiums. Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
Well, so stop loss premiums are a part of the entire program.
Okay.
Right? So if you have, when you buy a stop loss premium, you don't know which employee is going to trigger it in a given year. So you can't single out, of your 1,300 employees, you can't say, okay, number 7 and number 46 are going to have high cost claims. So it's an overall administrative cost of the program as a whole. Okay? I use stop loss as a simple example to show you the power in pooling with other districts. There's also surplus smoothing. And that's a scenario where if you go into a really bad year and you're with all these other groups and you have a spike in that year, but you're in parity because you hadn't hit your stop loss level yet. And I know I'm getting into some detail here, but
I guess I'm trying
it
to
smooths it out for you.
Sure, we understand the
Yeah.
bigger the
What's in it
pool,
for
the
us?
less
That's what it's coming
anomaly
down to. Like,
affects. Right.
what's in it for us? So,
Right.
you know, we have risk sharing. So what are we paying, are we sharing in the claims of other districts? When in this, are we putting all our money into one pool and then paying out the claims basically in this, out of the trust? Is that how this is working? Or is it individual? Because earlier you said we each have our own structure plans. And I'm confused how, if we have, 60-some districts all with different plans and different deductibles, how does this work?
Okay.
I guess that's the.
So if you were to imagine at the top of the medical claim line there, we wrote the number $50,000. That means that each column representing a school district, each district is responsible for $50,000 up to $50,000 for each person. What that allows you to do is that allows you to bargain your plan designs with your employees. That allows you to imply or put in clinics, for example, to try to keep those claims from going above that $50,000 mark. Each district can attack their claims the way they want to under the $50,000. That's why there's separate columns there. Above the $50,000 is when you're getting into health conditions that are the same for every district. Liver cancer is liver cancer. And you have fewer claims, so you don't have the broken bones and the stitches and that kind of stuff going into the pool. What you have going into the pool is what we call marginal claims, the higher cost claims that are still below where your stop loss attaches. So if you go through that yellow band, it's from a claim that's from $50,000 up to say $500,000, and the stop loss, commercial stop loss, that's with Sun Life or whoever you have it with. So everybody's pulling together claims that are above $50,000 and below $500,000. And the reason we're doing it that way is because if all of it goes great, you get a dividend back. But if you have a stop loss, you don't. They keep the money. So it's not for your everyday claims, the flu or whatever the case may be. It's for the NICU scenario. That's $1 million, That's what's really up, that marginal band is what causes the disruption in self-insured pools. Your attritional claims, you know, where little Johnny steps on a bottle and has to get stitches in his foot, that never disrupts your program. Your program runs smoothly with all the attritional claims. That's not a problem. It's very predictable. None of them are any kind of severity to be worried about. It's when you get above that $50,000 mark and before your stop loss attaches, if your modeling says you're going to have 15 of those claims in a year, above 50,000 and below 500,000, and your funding is set up to handle 15 of them, if something happens and you have 20 of them, you don't have the funding for 500,000 times 5 people.
So now if I understand your graph, the way you're communicating this, we share the operational costs, but we obviously are always going to have some operational costs individually. We have our own individual insurance administration costs from our people. We're going to handle the medical claims like we always do. So whatever our consultant is bringing back, and we're subjected to whatever the actuaries say is our cost, that's our cost, but we're sharing only in those anomalies, which we typically take out extra insurance for, right? So if we were to look at this in the past, let's say 3 years, what would be the amount of savings? Would it be significant enough for us? Because I think obviously we want to save money for the district, but we also need to look at what can we do for our ability to provide a reasonable health insurance for our staff, our teachers, right? And without costing us additional money, because we're not going to have it.
So the return on investment currently for the 4 school districts that we have for joining fleet, the cost for joining fleet and the savings they're generating is about 226%.
Percent of what?
So if they're going self-insured and the fee that they're paying fleet, for example, is $100, they're saving $226 by doing it.
So
That's the current number.
they're saving what they're putting in at this point in the dividends they get back because they don't have to use
Their cost went down 226. Yeah.
but that's not, when you say, that's not the total package of the health insurance costs. It's only 226% of what we put into you.
Okay, so another way of thinking about it is what percentage decrease do districts experience when they join this program?
To allow us to then to be able to negotiate back with our
Right.
like Brown and Brown, who we use now, that we will be able to negotiate our prices at that point, because now that we have a difference of ratio is 220%, 226%, that now we'd hopefully be able to drive those costs down like you're trying to get to. I think
But
that's what.
I want to
net
make sure that's
impact-
not to be misconstrued. 226% of our current overall healthcare costs
No,
is a
no,
lot
no.
different than the 226% of the fee that we would pay $400 per person for the whole year, is what you're saying.
So to simplify all this, so we don't go down other rabbit trails and
I'm
confuse
not trying to
it.
go down a rabbit.
No,
I just want, is that
well,
yes
we're-
or no? Is that the amount? It's not over the total amount
It's
to insure that person.
It's a 6 to 15% gross savings, okay, on your total spend.
Okay.
And the reason it varies so much is because groups that are already self-insured don't save as much as a group that was fully insured, because there's taxes and stuff that you guys aren't paying that a fully insured group is. So that goes into the 15. But it's a 6 to 15% savings. And that's before any dividends. That's just on the cost.
And just to kind of, our particular situation, if you go back 3 years in time, where, actually, what the actuaries had brought back to us was the equivalent to a flat, no increase in our premiums. And that's because what our overall pool of employees had looked like based on the actuaries is that we weren't touching our stop loss. Now in these 2 years, where we have had the most struggles and where the actuaries have increased us is exactly in that area of the stop loss. So, so while that's only one component of our healthcare, it is a component that the actuaries have focused on and the reason for our double-digit increases.
It's the most volatile, it's the most volatile piece for every single district. You're not unique in that. That marginal band is where self-insured programs live and die. That's just where it happens.
Well, like, for example, we had to do something called a laser, you know? Would this have, would that have eliminated the need to do that laser on that specific, sure, because of this structure, it would have maybe absorbed that?
So currently, no. We are building a model right now with a group of actuaries out of Chicago that's done this with other school boards in other parts of the country. That actually, once you reach a large enough pool, you can build what winds up being something that looks like a reverse laser insurance policy. So the laser still comes off. You know, what a laser says is this particular person is too risky. So instead of your stop loss attaching at, what's your stop loss, 325, 375? 275. Instead of it attaching at 275, we're going to make you hold that all the way up to $1 million, or sometimes hold all of it. And you have to fully fund that risk because there's only one of them in your district, so there's no way to smooth it among other districts. Once you reach to a big enough critical mass, you're able to then say, well, there's 255 lasers across the pool as a whole instead of one. So we can fund all of those at, instead of $1 million per laser, we can fund them at $575,000 per laser. And then you're walking into a $425,000 savings on your own laser. Now, to say that's theoretical is probably an overstatement at this point. We are at the very beginning stages of trying to build that because all of our school districts that we work for suffers from lasers, every single one of them. So when our financial modelers are working with actuaries, this is not an unknown problem. We believe we have a way to curb the impact. We'll never be able to completely eliminate it. But to be able to reduce your required funding from $1 million for that laser down to $550,000 for that laser is a significant, that's a $450,000 swing. That's a significant savings. And if you have 4 lasers in your group, that's $1.5 million, $2 million you're saving by taking this level or this specifically targeted reinsurance. Once a company lasers somebody off of their policy, they don't do the calculations on mortality and morbidity anymore. They don't do that. What we're able to do with this larger pool is look at all those different things. New cures coming out, you know, a new treatment, something's going, a medication that's $1 million a year, there might be a generic coming out. They don't consider any of that stuff. Once they're lasered off, that's your problem. So we're trying to design a way to be able to attack that, but in all fairness, we're probably 2 years from having that, because that is a nationwide, really nasty problem. But we're working on it.
Well, I think what would be helpful is if we could see a real-world example of how, you know, at the end of the day, our goal is to get our premiums down or to try and keep them from going up, right? And so that's the ultimate goal. So any tool that we or resource we use, that's why we're moving in that direction, because that's the outcome we're looking for. You know, so I think it'd be helpful. Like when we have Brown & Brown come in, you know, they'll show us a lot of numbers, and you know, if we do this, that, this is the predicted outcome, right? And so I think that kind of view or graph could be helpful for us to see, you know, again, how are we going to benefit if we move it? And how many counties are in this now?
There are 4 in it right now.
Okay. Now, yeah.
We're in conversations with 6 others. You're one of the 6, with 6 others.
What's the size of those counties? How big are they?
The largest one's pretty big. It's 12,000 people. The smallest one is 450.
Well, the one thing is that, we've looked into trying to join other insurance pools, and we've not been successful at doing that regionally, right? Because of, they're looking at the health of their plan and the health of that, and they say, well, we don't want you to drag us up. You might benefit, but we might go up, right? So, again, with such a, where's the number of districts where it benefits a district our size, right? Is it at when you have more than half the districts in there? I think we got to look at that, because we would hate to be the first ones in and then have the negative result of maybe being the first one and not receiving the benefit of the larger pool.
You don't want to be the first one.
Yeah.
We already have a district that's roughly your size, and they are saving between $500 and $1 million a year right now, with the addition of the other 3 districts that came in. So we're already at the critical mass now, that because all told, everybody together, we're at about 4,500 lives. So when we got above 3,500, we started seeing savings. So when you come in, you're going to walk into those savings. We've already reached that break-even point that you're talking about.
I'm sure y'all have already done this, because I'm trying to push out what that's going to look like if you were to get these next 6 counties that come in. You're talking about the savings that you've already seen. What does predictive analytics, when it comes to that, saying, well, if we get these other districts in here, we're over 35, like we're talking about now. If we get to 65 or 55, what does that look like? Has any of that been done at this point? I mean, maybe
We have to.
the weeds yet, but just curious.
We have to look at each district's. So what you're asking me is going to vary. The 5, I gave you the 6 to 15%. In my world, that's a pretty big spread. Yeah. And so I wouldn't really be comfortable giving you a number unless we saw your actual data, because we can model your data now on what it would look like and tell you, you'll save this much, you'll save this much.
Mr. Chairman, I think at this point, make a recommendation that we get more of this data that comes back, especially when we go into, closed sessions. I know we can't do it right now at this point, but as we move forward into the future, to be able to see what this is going to look like, and what type of cost savings that we would be able to see for our district, and, get more of the granular stuff that we really need to see to make a decision.
I do have 2 additional questions before we maybe need to vote on, do we want to see a model of this? First is, you said that you charge a flat rate. What has been the year-over-year increase in that flat rate?
None.
So you charge a flat rate, and you're the only company in the world right now not charging inflation.
We've been very blessed that we are growing. Our growth is coming by picking up districts.
I see. Okay. My next question is, I've also investigated something called gap insurance, where if you have an HSA plan like we do, that you can purchase a gap, kind of like you do for your car when you kind of owe more on your car than it's worth yet, where they can choose to purchase this gap insurance so that if before they've saved that deductible, they would be protected, and then once they save up to their deductible, that gap insurance cost goes away. Is that something that would not be able to also attach to a program like this, or is that something that if you move into this, it's no, we can't have anything extra besides you and the health insurance company that we're working with?
No, we're always looking for any tool that can help our districts, always. The one caution I would give you is that gap insurance is in that below 50,000 category. So although we will be happy to analyze that and advise you on whether we think it's beneficial or not, we don't have any dog in that fight. Mm-hmm. So if you want to offer that to your employees, we'll tell you if we think it's a good idea or not. idea being, if you're paying a premium for something you may or may not use, you're not going to get a dividend back or a refund if you don't use it. You're buying, that is what we would think of as buying your deductible down, is all you're really doing with the gap policy. Offering that to your employees so that they can choose to buy it or not, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't. Whether it would make sense for the board to fund it is a different question, because you have to look at the ROI on that. We do everything based on ROIs. If it's not going to save money for the district, the answer is no, in our perspective.
Well, I guess in my mind, you know, I was thinking that if we incentivize and make people more comfortable with the HSA, it helps to lower our typical costs, and maybe it would then drive down some of the actuary numbers that are increasing our costs. So it was like to provide that safety net for people to jump off that premium, because when you do the dollar for dollar analysis, right, even if you use your health insurance, right, you're paying lower on the HSA, you're just paying that premium on the higher amount as you go, right? So that was in my mind. Do you see, is that something that does play out in a positive way for the bottom line if more people move to the HSA than the premium plan or the top plan?
I'm personally a fan of HSAs. But what I like about an HSA is the flexibility of you being able to fund it to drive behavior. A lot of what we do from an analytical perspective is all driven by behavioral economics. What doctor do they go to and why? When do they go to the doctor, when they not go to the doctor? What are they doing with their wellness and their health behaviors? Those types of things. And HSA can often be used for that. And the funding that the board is putting into the HSA, and I'm really doing now what your agent should be doing for you, but I'm going to.
I knew you were going to tell
I'm
me
going to
that.
throw this
I was
out
trying to
there.
get a little advice.
That is on the discussion topics for the 22nd.
And I'm sure they're going to say the same thing that I'm saying.
Yeah.
HSAs are actually a good tool when used properly. I'll just leave it at that.
Well,
Okay.
I think it was a great first introduction to this trust and to get a top view understanding of what's happening here. I agree with Mr. Barnes. I think we need some more data on how it's going to impact our district, and also if we're going to be able to get some benefits through the pooling, through actuarial determinations. We may need to talk to Brown & Brown and see if that holds true with them. If they, where yes, that if we had that data, we could do so much better with our analysis. You know.
So is there a cost to do the modeling?
Do you have also a website or any other information other than these slides, like to go over, research based on anything?
No, man, this trust is actually fully active today.
Okay. Oh, like this.
So we had one, but remember, FSHIP was shut down. So now, I mean, this sounds crazy. It sounds like I'm just kind of coming in here out of nowhere, but this has actually been working. We've been working on this since 2009, I promise you.
Well, no, and that's why I'm asking. I was
But
wondering, I didn't see anything other than these slides, and so I was wondering and hoping there was something else to look at. And also, did we reach out to you, or are you reaching out to all the districts on your own to set up these meetings and like kind of go over everything? And
I
then
actually don't remember how we.
This was a board request that came through to bring them before you at this time. What I would just also remind you, because this is information only, this is an introduction. You do have an insurance committee that this information has not been brought before as well, and they are really that group that would work along with our current agency, which is Brown & Brown, to really look at this, ask some questions, weed some things out to be able to bring before you some numbers and things that you would need to, you would be able to use in order to make some decisions. A part of that insurance group includes your workforce, so it does include members from the bargaining units and all of those things are part of that insurance committee. So this is really introduction for you at this moment And so we can identify how you as a board would like to move forward with this conversation.
I feel like, to me, I would make a motion to say I would like to have the modeling come through, and then we can determine if we like what we see, then it goes to the insurance company.
And remember, at this meeting, you don't have to vote, so you don't have to make a motion. You just need to give us direction that is collective amongst the board, that this is, you want us to begin working in this direction.
Well, I'd say I would like to see some more information on this and how it would affect us. We just need more data.
Yeah.
I think that's just the key here. I mean, in theory, it sounds good, because we've been trying to do something like this before, and it hasn't worked out. So this might be the one. We just can't tell at this moment, right? So I think more data is gonna help us work on that. So Bob, you can.
Can I ask one last question though,
Sure.
before we close, and I have two comments for this. So the school districts are doing this, I know sheriff's offices are doing this, other county agencies are doing this, kind of pulling these things together. Is there been any discussion to, okay, now we've got this, now they're kind of doing the same thing that we're doing. Is there been any discussions about trying to pull all those things together to come to be one? Especially when we're talking about county employees and things of that nature.
So one of the things, so counties have been doing this for a long time.
Mm.
They don't have the same dynamic that you have with collective bargaining. They don't, every sheriff's office that belongs to the sheriff's trust has the same insurance program.
Okay.
Every county that belongs to the county trust has the same insurance carrier. The autonomy is not there.
Okay.
That was one of the reasons this didn't ever go in the beginning.
That makes sense now. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and as far as, I will have to ask the Superintendent Association and what's going to be the fleet board at 7:55 today or whenever they finally sign the document and vote. If they are comfortable with us doing the modeling up front. I don't have the authority to, I'm here
What is the typical
representing.
process?
I would assume so. I just don't want to speak for them.
No, I was saying, what is the typical process when you've worked with these other districts?
To
like,
model it.
To,
Yeah,
okay.
but that was under FSHIP.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah,
you have
so-
to determine what is your playbook at this point.
I do what people tell me. If they say, that sounds great,
Okay.
go down there and get their data and send it to the actuaries and send it to this and send it to that, then that's what we'll do. I'm just really not comfortable speaking for the executive director at this point.
Sure. So when would you be able to find that out?
I wasn't kidding about 7:55 tonight.
Okay.
There's,
I'll be watching my email.
that's when it comes, that's when it actually comes alive, but
So that I make sure we're clear, this board would like for us to work with Fleet, that's the right
Yes,
term?
ma'am.
Yes, with Fleet, in order to get some actual numbers that can be considered by the board as well as your insurance committee in order to determine steps forward. A part of that, when they go back and this is established through the new organization, if there are costs in those things, we would follow our normal process that it will come before you as a PO request and all of that.
Yes.
So we will actively be working as fast as their organization can work under the new guidelines under FADS. And because, that team comes, I don't know if they're coming together, you said they're coming together this week, some of the executive members, but I know the larger group doesn't come together for some time, so there just may be some, we may have to just kind of get creative with how we move forward with our work, but we will move forward if that is the will of the board.
Yeah.
I
I just
think
think
so.
more,
Yes.
more detail
Worth
will be
investing.
helpful, and I know you didn't have, because it's just information, but for me, I think seeing a little bit more to relate it.
I don't know why they would not let us do it, model for you. We've done that for all the other districts, so I'm nervous about telling you we will until they say yes. But the next logical step is going to be, I'm going to need some data.
Yes.
And as far as working with Brown & Brown, we already work with Hub. Hub's a huge international brokerage house. We work with Assured Partners. They're a top 10 broker house. We work with Accentria. I mean, we are completely unbiased. If you want to work with Brown & Brown, we'll work with them. That's fine. That's perfectly fine with us.
I agree.
We have our
All right.
next steps.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you
much
very
for
much for
coming
your
down.
time.
Appreciate your
Thank
presentation.
you, Mr. Ullett, for
Mr.
digging
Ullett.
into this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're gonna move on with our amended agenda, so that leads us to 19.01, permission to advertise school board policies, and that is our Neil team, Mr. Sanfilippo.
Yes, and we have our friends with
Friends
Neil.
from Neil, our Neil team.
Join him.
Come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Remember Tom Martin,
Yes, sir.
Tom Whitmer, and Annette Martinson for our first meeting. We have before you 3 groups of policies, our 1,000s administration, our 3,000s instructional staff, and 4,000 support staff. I know you had a couple days to review just a few policies there that we sent for you. It's quite a bit.
That's quite a few.
Yeah. And I have Mr. Whitmer here for any questions for discussion.
Well, this is actually just a discussion item, I think now. We're going to be having a series of these workshops. We've done the bylaws already. Now, there's 3 chapters here, because we put these 3 together because they're all very similar. Some of them are almost identical. And then we'll do the other chapters also, bring them to you in the workshop form. And then, once that's all completed, then we will bring the whole package back to you for the adoption. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
And so, there's a lot of policies here. I don't know which, if you wanted to, in the interest of time, to just focus on ones that board members had questions about or wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
in particular.
any that they have questions, because it will be brought before them again, and they will have
Right.
multiple opportunities to provide input.
Yeah, that was my main point, and we discussed this the other day, but just making sure, once they go out, then of course, we're gonna have more time to be able to review and look at information before it goes out for any type of vote that we're gonna do it on this board. So we have several more rounds of discussions.
Yeah,
if you
so
will.
what I would definitely ask of this board, you see the first draft of the 1,000s, 3,000s, 4,000s. And so for you to begin looking through those, making note of any type of changes or adjustments that we would, you would want to have discussion about, bringing those items forward to Marcus. He would begin working, or with Sven Smith, our district attorney, he will begin working with Neola to get that information. And then, once we go out for advertisement, we will be out for advertisement, and they will come back before you again. So at this time, we are not going to be advertising. They're just kind of in a holding place right now for you to begin to bring forward any comments that you may have, so that when we get ready to advertise, we are ready, set, go.
Yeah.
Okay? This process, unless the board would like to have a separate special meeting to go over each policy, it is not the intent that we will go over, address each of them in great detail, but we can bring forward here the highlights to these policy, answer any questions, make any clarifications, have discussion about any of them. Any of that we are able to do. So this is really your opportunity at the first look at 1,000s, 3,000s, 4,000s as we prepare for advertisement.
So as a first look at these policies, was there anything that any of the board members wanted to share at first read with Neil?
I wouldn't say specifically that, to dive deep into each one of them, but I will say the helpful piece of how we did it before. I realized it was time consuming to some degree, but I feel like that allowed us to really dive into those and have a better understanding of the policies for us doing it the way that we did. And I think it's important for us, because that's our lane, is these policies, and we need to understand them. And so I think my humble opinion is that that's the direction that we should probably go in, just because it gives us a way to collaborate together on each of these policies.
Okay, so what I am hearing you is that you would like at least a special meeting where we could have the time really devoted to looking at as many of the policies or all of them each individually as the board would need to.
Right.
Right now we have 1,000s, 3,000s, 4,000s. Are you wanting that to be done for this group in chunks? Are you wanting that to be done once more of the, because it's quite a few policies right now. About how many policies is 1,000, 3,000, 4,000?
Oh, gosh.
150 maybe.
150.
Yeah.
But majority of them are the same.
Sorry,
Yes,
Like
the
registrations,
Right.
instruction, and support.
Yeah, but there's some meeting things here like professional learning and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Can I have clarification here, though? And I'm sorry, but number one, we have a separate manual, right? And then we worked on the policies here. I would like to, and I know this goes back a little bit, it seems like they should be one. It is not very transparent to have a separate document for certain things, and many of those also kind of were very similar. The other question I have is that, right, one individual board member cannot act on their own, and so therefore, whenever we give a recommendation, aren't we supposed to be voting on this, and the majority is the action that is taken? So I just want to make sure that we're following this
First of all, I wasn't
process
making a
properly.
motion. First of all, I was just saying that.
I'm not picking on you individually,
Well,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
just saying, we're
but
just having a conversation about, that's my feeling about what I thought we should probably do. That's all I was saying.
Right.
At this meeting, it's all workshopping. So, you know, what my view was here is that the intent was for us to all, right, we can't do things incrementally, but we can do them together here today. So the idea is that we read through these on our own, note down, because a lot of them are pretty boilerplate. I didn't see a lot of change personally, but that's just me. But in this section here, and the idea was today we'd come together with your notes, just like we did last time, in real time, and because it will be a lot of time to set a meeting. I'm willing to do it if the board feels that it is necessary, especially for the meatier policies, you know, they have a lot of changes. But a lot of these, unless the board sees a lot of changes in this first round, then I would say we could do it incrementally to move the process along, but not at the sake of missing something, right? So we want to be.
Is there opportunity to do it where, like what I've done with policy making, but obviously it wasn't school board, with large, you know, chunks like this, you know, kind of like a shared doc with your notes, but no, I don't know if we can share it. No.
That's the
All right.
problem.
But
Yes.
but if everybody had their own, right, yeah, like their notes, like, you know, just how we've been doing, and
So,
then.
I just want to
one
add,
place.
remember, we're letting the community know we are working on these policies, right? It's an opportunity for us to come. Now, to your point, Mr. Bars, when these come back before you, you can either at that time in the meeting, go by them one by one by one by one as to what Ms. Ruddy is asking for,
Right.
absolutely. Or we can set up.
No, I don't want to go through them one.
No, you
I
have
was
a
trying to
collective
gain clarity
conversation.
because before, when I said I want to make a motion to, about the health insurance, well, we don't have to have a motion. Well, I can't just say, hey, let's add this to the agenda. No, I'm not saying I want to go one by one. My recommendation would be, I feel like we need to report which ones would we like to, and then the consensus of the board is which ones are we going to pick out that we need to dive deeper into. Because this 1,000 to 1,600 is 128 pages.
But what I'm saying is that we can either do that, be it one of them, 5 of them, all of them, during your regular scheduled workshop, or we can schedule a separate special meeting that we will do just that, is go through the 1 to 5 or all of them that the board would want. That is the way that we can do that.
My understanding was that we needed to read all of these and have a conversation with Marcus, which I hope we all did.
Or set an appointment.
All right, and then-
But yeah, if there are certain ones you wanted to talk about, I'm okay with that too. But there's no way we could possibly go through 128 pages of these.
Well, could I make a suggestion?
Yes, Mr. Delaney.
So one option that the board could have is to each individual board member, take a look at the policies and just send an email to the superintendent or whoever she designates. It says, these are policies, this is the list of policies that I would like to dive into deeper and discuss more thoroughly. And then with that feedback from all 5 board members and being able to overlay and see what's the comprehensive list, we might have a better sense of, is this something that could be handled during a workshop, or if a separate time should be set aside?
Okay, so just see how many policies, if it's only like 3 or 4, we just do it at a workshop. If we all send in 50, then we need a special meeting, you know? Is that kind of what, you let the superintendent kind of gauge that on the amount? I mean, just out of curiosity, I mean, from this first round, I mean, this was a lot to consume, but was there a number of items that you thought you might want to change in the language? Because in the bylaws, we did them in real time when we were together, right? So, because we could even do that now. So if you had notes that you wanted to bring up now, we could go through them and they could change them in real time.
Well, my thing was mostly because the 1,000 to 1,600, there's a lot of like discipline and all these other things. What in the contract, you know, might be different? Does that need to be side by side? Does the contract get reformed if we change any of these? So that's kind of one thing.
No, the contract, your labor contract overrides any policy.
Okay, so that's something that I feel is missing here with a lot in this section.
I believe there's a bylaw that clarifies that. I don't have it in front of me,
But what happens, the process that you all went through with your bylaws, that's the exact process we went through with your staff. So when people came and we worked on the policies with them, they knew they had that information, so they made sure that it did not conflict with your contract. They were just like that, they came in and they're the knowledgeable people that you all have in your district, and they work through those processes, templates with us, just like we work through the bylaws with you.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but there's also other elements that we're advocating for that we might hear from constituents or staff members that might not surface,
That's why
right?
it's so important that like you have those these 3 sections, you review them, and we encourage you, like then after you review them individually, you sit down and you go meet with Marcus, he's the project manager, and a lot of your questions are going to be, oh, okay, now I get it. You did look at the contract, you did talk to whomever, but if you still have someone, I think they need to be different. That's when you come together a board. You're right. Not one person can make a decision. Then at that workshop, we build consensus with you, and we change it. Because they're your policies.
Well, I did notice from the board docs, I mean, it was pretty clear on, you know, the highlighted green, with the changes and the X's out, the cross outs. Yeah. So that, you know, we were able to see the modifications that district staff made. So it's really kind of, at this point, you know, we have our administrators, you know, giving their insight into these Neola policies that align with our district needs. And then the way I look at it here Is that then now we're just reviewing that work to make sure that's in alignment with the board's views?
Yeah, because as in my role, I have to recommend to you policies. And then you are going to double check my work and the work of staff and to make sure that those policies really represent what you want this organization to operate off of. So again, when it comes to us establishing the meeting of your workshops, we're working within that to make sure we are being timely within your workshops as well. So we can absolutely, the next time these come before you, bring forward this topic in a workshop, but that may cause your workshop, your time frame to get off. And so, again, either bringing the number forward to myself and Lorraine so that we know how many we want to discuss, or we can just set a separate time and we can use that entire time to go through as many or as few as you have questions for is really what we need the direction on.
I liked Mr. Delaney's suggestion is, sending it in, because we won't know exactly individually how many policies were sent in for review. So if we just send them in and let the superintendent manage that schedule and say, this is just way too many for a workshop, we have to have it, and then they'll reach out to us to schedule that meeting, right? And then we just respond accordingly.
I agree.
Are we okay with that?
That sounds a good idea.
Okay.
Okay. We will follow up with an email from Lorraine that will go to each of you, asking for you to send it to myself, Marcus, and to Lorraine, just the number so that we can keep track and identify.
Can I also suggest that if the board's in agreement, we establish a due date on when that gets submitted?
The due date, only because, well, we should be doing it before we're moving on. How would we set a due date? Like, what's kind of the timeline here of our progression through the different sections?
We're working on all the different chapters now.
Right.
All of them. So as we finish a chapter, we will notify.
We just finished 2000s and 4000s today.
2 and 5.
2 and 5.
They're going to be cleaned by Neola, and then they'll be available, and you can.
But I think you'd like to have all these done before the
July.
start of next school year,
year,
right? You want to
July.
start with new policies.
I'd
So
say,
I think for this 1,000s, 3,000s, 4,000, if they're gonna go on to the next meeting, we have to have that next week. Because on the Friday before, the Tuesday before the meeting, we have to have the agenda ready to go.
Right.
And so what we'll do in that same email, we'll ask for Ms. Thompson to send out the due date that we have for internal staff. And you'll see, in order for it to make this date, you gotta have it by this time.
yeah,
In order
that
for it
would
to
be
make this date, so we do have those dates that we have internally.
That would
And
be
then that will allow for us to work with Neola to get it on the appropriate. But what I do ask is that you don't wait, like 1, 3s, and 4s are before you. We wanna get those done as soon as possible, so that when we get ready to bring before you 2s and 5s, you have the bandwidth to do 2s and 5s, or they're gonna just continue to stack up. Okay?
okay, all right, so we got direction there?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Come out, we need to know.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
Yes.
So now we're on to our next amended item, 14.01, permission to advertise policy 716, authorized travel expenses. That's Ms. Warmack and Mr. Smith. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Furry, board members, and Superintendent Moore. Mr. Sven Smith and myself are here to discuss travel policy 716. Just for some background, this was adopted in 2004 to align with the Florida statutes. The travel policy outlines the per diem and the travel reimbursement that all employees would get when they're traveling for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The current amounts of reimbursement are $6 for breakfast, $11 for lunch, and $19 for dinner. The Florida statutes does allow the school districts to change this amount as long as it does not go below what the Florida statute is. So in conversations with senior management, it has been noted that since this Florida statute has not been updated in over 20 years, the amount of reimbursement does not align with current rates of food. What's happening is our employees are having to take this money out of their own pocket when they're traveling, and keep in mind that when employees do travel, it is for PD or PL learning to enhance their expertise in their certain area. So for years, they have been traveling at a loss because of how outdated this policy is. Not just the policy, but the Florida statute. So in working with our in-house counsel, Mr. Smith, he has helped to get this policy updated. We did start with the NEOLA policy, as that is currently what we are doing for our school district. So in agreement with our superintendent and senior management, what we have done is doubled the breakfast, lunch, and dinner costs. So breakfast will increase from 6 to 12, lunch will increase from 11 to 22, and dinner will increase from $19 to $28. This is, what we are asking is for this to be effective January 1st. We have been working on this for a few months, and there's a lot of travel that happens this time of year, and it's, like I said, it's at the expense of the personal wallet of our employees. And this is employees district-wide.
So, did you say 28 for the dinner?
Yes.
She meant
Okay,
38.
It says 30.
Oh, sorry, 38, yes,
Oh,
19 times 2, sorry,
oh,
38.
Okay.
Tricia, was there any discussion about just looking at what GS rates are and just go by where you're traveling to instead of coming up with this?
What is, I don't know.
A
what that
government
is.
rate, so if you travel to a certain area, I mean, the federal government, so if you travel to a certain area, you get X amount. If you travel to this area, it is based off of the geographical location, because prices are more expensive in those areas compared to, here compared to San Francisco, just using that for example. And so you would get more if you were traveling to those areas.
Does the statute talk about that? The Florida statute, does that talk about that?
It's not discussed in our statute.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that, what you talked about is peanuts.
right.
And it's been like that for forever. But this is just a way to, some organizations will do the federal per diem. That way you can base it off a geographical location of where the traveler is going.
And that's mainly if there's a lot of out-of-state travel, correct?
And it doesn't matter. It's
Just
inside the state
even within the
too.
state.
Right, so if you go to Miami, it's going to be a little bit different if you go to Miami compared to if you went to Jacksonville. Hotel rates are different and so forth as well.
And what we can do is go back, look at that, and bring back before you, if to go in that direction would be, better for our employees.
Most of the time it will be, and I haven't compared to what you have here, but normally a GS rate is going to be more conducive, if you will, lack of a better
It
word.
might be more difficult for them administratively.
It may be too.
Yeah, and we can definitely look at that and
Yeah.
look at what would be the management process of it.
Do we find it, but most of our travel, isn't it in-state?
Yes,
Mostly
the
in-state?
vast majority of it is
Majority?
in-state.
Gotcha. Yeah, but it'd be interesting to look at that chart, even just for Florida, and see kind of how these align with maybe an average, or, if we know where we mostly go, for travel, like we know, especially for us anyways, FSBA, we're typically going Tampa, Gainesville, or Tallahassee. Those seem to be
Right.
the places we always go. So that would be interesting to reference against that.
And
I
we
will
can,
say
if you
from a
want.
business perspective, like I work with folks who travel a lot to deliver professional development. And if you add this up per day, this is more than what the business is offering. So in terms of just food, not hotel. But I guess my question is, let's say that if we enacted this as of January, is our budget prepared to handle whatever increases?
Yes,
would
and just to talk to that
cause?
point, just to put it in perspective, for the 23-24 fiscal year, the total reimbursement of travel was $5,500. It is not substantial at all. And it is low because of how low these reimbursement amounts are. For the first half of the fiscal year, because we've held since January, knowing that we're bringing this up, it's been $2,900. So it's in line. $5,000 to $6,000 each year is what our travel reimbursement is. So this increase would bump it up to ten to $12,000. Yes.
Okay.
So we will bring that.
Do
Any
you
other
wanna-
recommendations for us to bring back before you?
I agree. I think, so I used to travel quite a bit, and then looking just, I feel like it is on the lower end, even breakfast.
Well, it has been.
I mean, it really low, but now even lower, so I don't know.
Well, the
I would
statute-
recommend to maybe, because you don't want people, if they need breakfast and they're losing money just to eat breakfast every day, if they're going for professional development. I would recommend to just adjust the numbers.
It is low because the statute, like I said, hasn't been updated for 20 years. There is a clause in the statute that the rates are in effect until July 1, 2025, so I look for some kind of adjustment. However, this has been something that's been impacting our employees for a while, so we are trying to give some type of relief to ensure that this travel the second half of the year does not burden their wallet anymore. But we definitely can, what Mr. Barr said, and I don't know if you want to bring back that information at the 1 o'clock for consideration
Yeah,
before
we can
6
look at the
o'clock.
management piece of it as well.
And there's
Okay.
one more piece to this. We're talking about per diem. Now, this is just reimbursement for meals. So there's a per diem rate that the state has that if you travel
$80.
after like $80 per day, depending on what time that you travel, and you don't claim meals that day, but you claim actual true per diem.
Sure, and that's part of this policy as well. Mr. Smith has worked that $80 per diem in, so that when our employee, it goes from midnight to midnight.
Right.
So when our employees are staying overnight and they leave, let's say they're staying Tuesday night, leave Wednesday, if they don't get back till 6 PM, they get every 6
They get
hours,
each
every
quarter.
quarter hour of the $80 as well. So we are trying to align this with the statute, but also knowing those rates and statutes are out of date by 20 years. But the $80 per diem is a part of what Mr. Smith has added here.
I'm just, to me, I don't think that's clear in this policy. The $80 for actual per diem, I don't think that's clear in here saying that the employee gets that.
I
I mean,
believe,
if it is, then I just overlooked it. It just seems, I just couldn't find it.
in discussing this with Mr. Smith, the $80 is not outlined. We referenced the statute, is that correct?
Well, the statute is referenced, but we can make it more clear.
We
I
also-
mean, as long as it's referenced, I mean, it's fine, but I do think we're referencing the dollar amount for what you're gonna get for your meals. It just seems like you would reference, okay, you're also gonna get the per diem rate as well.
The
and
reason
break
we
that
have
out.
to reference the dollar amount for meals is because we're going outside of statute and going above and beyond.
Yeah,
So we
okay.
need that approved. We do have a travel SOP that myself and Ms. Whitmore have been working on that will break that down
Okay.
as to how that per diem will be calculated, and that SOP will go out to all employees.
Okay.
So it'll be very detailed with an explanation and an example.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
looking at the 2024 per diem rates for GSA, and it had a range of 59 to 79. So this total per day is on the high end for just meals.
Is that per diem, or is that?
Says the meals and incidental expenses per diem tiers for fiscal year 2024 are $59 to $79.
And that depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Right,
Each
so
location would
we're
give it to,
giving-
yeah.
And this is based on reimbursement, so do they, against these here, there's receipts against this, right?
Well, for your meal reimbursement, you do not have to produce receipts because it's stated what you get.
Okay.
If there was additional reimbursements for tolls or parking, that has to be reimbursed, hotels as well, but hotels are usually put on P cards.
Okay. So if an employee goes to dinner and it's only $20, they're getting paid the 38.
Correct. That is typically not what we see.
Yeah, usually dinner, breakfast
Dinner's
is
what gets you.
$20, and then
Yeah,
tip.
no, I'm not, I
Yeah.
just was, so,
I
but
was going
irregardless,
with
it's not,
Yeah.
they're not submitting receipts for these meals.
Correct.
If they're traveling, they're getting this every day, irregardless.
If a
Depending on the
meal is
time
not
frame.
covered
Yeah.
for where they are going.
So so for my finance conference, there's usually a lunch provided 2 of the 4 days. you don't get, I would not get reimbursed if it's provided by the conference.
Okay.
And when this reimbursement occurs, with the travel reimbursement, you have to submit the conference agenda, you have to submit various documents to show, you know, I did not get this meal provided, to make sure that it all lines up. That's all part of the audit process that they look
I
at.
see. What about if you're staying in a hotel that includes breakfast? Does that?
You don't get reimbursed for breakfast.
Okay, so that's all
Even if
factored
you
in.
don't go to it, you don't
Right.
get reimbursed.
I see, got it.
And this is similar.
That's what renders
to-
the, excuse me.
Oh, I was gonna say, this is similar to other, like, institutions, like how with uploading and things, I think this is pretty comparable.
I don't know how this works, so do they get taxed on this?
No.
Okay.
It's a check, the check is cut through the accounts payable system, so it does not go through their payroll. The only piece that goes through payroll is if it's actual day travel, then it goes through payroll.
We built the policy basically from the ground up, so basically what current protocol is, we analyzed that, and then we just tried to, you know, create a policy that would emulate that. If, what I'm hearing from the board is that the board wants us to incorporate the GSA.gov website's reference, if that's indeed the case from the board, I can take the policy and edit it so that it includes that information. I see the wisdom in that, you know, because there is, looking at I went to the website when you referenced it, and, you know, I've been part of other organizations that utilize that, and I was thankful for that.
Yeah.
You know, when I travel to those, so if that's something, you know, we both sides of the table have the same value. We want to raise the rates so that no one's being punished when they travel for the benefit of their organization, and so
Right.
that's something that I can edit.
Yeah, I think we just want to find a policy that has a balance between making sure that we're not shortchanging the staff, but at the same time, it's something that we can administer efficiently at the same time also. So some balance in there.
Sure, we can do that and bring that back at the 1 o'clock in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Updating that.
Finance?
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us back to our regular
scheduled program.
scheduled agenda. So now we are at 7.01. And that is request board approval for Imagine Financials. Are there any question on this agenda item? Hearing none, we will move on to 7.02, request board approval for purchases over 10,000.
Do we know how much the clinic's being used now? I
I would have to defer to Mr. Willett on that one.
Like, is it worth it right now, I guess, since we're?
I remember we could never get any real numbers. That was always the problem with that. They never would give us
They don't give us numbers?
No.
We have utilization.
Oh, we do?
We do have utilization, but we don't have full utilization numbers. They're sometimes a little opaque because they go by slots, they don't go by like actual bodies. We did have a meeting with the clinic manager and Brown and Brown, their director, and we did try to address some of the issues that our folks were having. And part of it, according to Advent, was there are slots available, but our folks are wed to particular practitioners, and this isn't our clinic, so with the limited time spots available, they can't get that particular practitioner until weeks out.
And what they were able to do is they were able to provide us with some additional information on, hey, if your folks are having issues getting time in the online scheduler, just have them call this individual, and then that way they can do same-day appointments as long as they're available. For our folks that need acute care, they wake up not feeling great, they might go to the online scheduler, and they may not see anything open for about a week or two, but we now have the ability to direct them to call a certain line so that they can call in and get an appointment same day if available. That way we can kind of get them the care they need.
What I'm hearing from community members, teachers, staff, that and which is why I'm excited about Marathon, but apparently the Advent that they're using, it's not just Flagler district, so it's the whole, like anybody so they're not able to get in because of that. So I think that's why Marathon people are going to be excited, so we can explain it will just be Flagler. But I think I'm hearing that they're having challenges getting in because
They only have certain times.
Yeah.
Which I don't really
So-
like. 'Cause I'm still paying for it.
But Marathon should, cut that out if it's just Flagler district employees.
Yeah,
So that is the positive. But-
And this is a month-to-month of the holdover agreement, and the original agreement was only limited time spots because, in the big scheme of things, we were one small part of their large business coming out of that clinic.
Do we have anything now with where they can do an online visit where they're not charged? Like-
We have Teladoc. That's part of our current benefit slate. And I'll tell you, as somebody who's used Teladoc on at least a half dozen times so far, and you're laughing because that's my favorite. I can do it right from my office. I don't even lose a day's work, and the antibiotics are sitting there waiting for me, half an hour later. But it is an available benefit that I know that a lot of the folks like me do use it,
Yeah.
but it's underutilized. We get a utilization
I know, that's
report
what,
every
so
month.
I don't think they
And-
realize, because that's what I'm hearing. They're like, I don't know, and they're using other
But
ones.
to do
so
that, it's
maybe-
still, you still have to get on the phone. There's still, some people like that personal touch of actually going in and talking to a provider and being able to, open up and say, and all those things that you can't really do in the Teladoc.
And something we're looking forward to is in the next coming months, we're going to be visiting our school sites and our departments with our provider from Marathon to make those introductions and to give them information on what open enrollment could be looking like up ahead. And that'll give us a chance directly to engage with our employees to see what struggles they might be having with any kind of current clinic engagement and let them know what we are doing to ensure that continuous coverage into the next plan year.
And we do plan to occupy a lot of your time at the next workshop, because we have a lot of things that we need to bring forward to you. So a lot of the questions you have now will also be part of the discussion next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. So,
Just a couple.
any other questions?
Yeah,
Just
I
a couple.
still have-
Yep.
Go ahead.
For the courthouse, is that gonna be a full renovation? Because this is like news to all of us, I'm sure.
Sure, if Mr. Bush can come up and speak on that.
I'd like to just know what's gonna be included in that amount.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have, we're several floors, not a total building renovation. A lot of the first floor where step-up is, not step-up, disability is going in
Adults with disabilities.
in the first floor, because we're adding a kitchen in that area, so that's primarily where there's a lot of work. There's the plumbing and electrical. And a lot of the second floor, we're doing painting, and we did some floor, adding a bathroom on the second floor, adding a bathroom on the third floor to make it a little more feasible for those occupants that are in that area. There's some outside work of the parking area where we work in the fence.
Anything else internal, maybe like AC, or would that be handled by the county?
That is handled by the county. The county's taking care of, through our contract, they handle the air conditioning, more of the life safety things. They have been working with us. Some of the exterior doors, when we first got there, we didn't feel like they were where we would like them, so they've replaced those doors. We are adding Salto to that facility as well on the exterior to be able to help with the coming and going at that facility.
So what does completion time look like for when we can use that building?
We should be finished with it somewhere around June, July. We're hoping over the summer that, because custodial and their moving crews, there's 4 of them, so we're gonna start working with those programs and try to get, not all at one time, but slowly start working with each program to get them moved in. We're hoping, our goal would be come the new year, August, that everybody would be in that facility, so then we can start removing, the portables that are out at the annex area, and then the 2 schools, Rimfire and Benell, those rooms that are being occupied now will be open for the new school year as well.
Do you have to move any walls or anything like that? I know some of them you may not be able to, but.
In the courthouse?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there's several walls that we're having to remove. We're adding some doors in certain areas to try to, and we've met with each program that's going in there, their input on how they would like to have their spaces. So yeah, there are some openings we're putting in there. And I think anytime that if you all would ever want to take a walk, I mean, they're doing some construction, but we did a tour Thursday, I believe it was.
Yeah, I was
for
actually
our-
thinking, I know we've had a lot going on, but I'd like to get a tour
Yeah,
sometime.
one-on-one, I mean, you
Yeah.
can give me a call and we can definitely go over there. It won't take very long to look at it so you can see firsthand.
Anything else, Ms. Chong?
No.
Mr. Barnes, you had something?
Just a couple, just the Apple computer amount for 14,471, that's not half cents, is that correct?
That is through CAPE funds.
Okay.
So that is actually Indian Trails using their CAPE funds for that specific program.
Okay, and those are 100% grant dollars, correct?
It is add-on funding, so when it's CTE, so they get add-on funding that goes back to each of those programs, and they have the liberty to spend it on what they deem fit for that program.
Okay, perfect. And then the other one, just Reality Works, that's a veterinary service package, that for FPC's program?
That is for FPC's veterinary program.
Is that a grant as well?
Yes, that's a state grant.
State grant, okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Not hearing any more, so we'll move on to 7.03, request board approval for vendor payments. Do you have any questions or comments?
I had questions. I spoke with Patty, and then I'm going to be hopefully meeting with Renee. So it's check number 329012. So just the history of the Daytona State College, like the Perkins rural allocation, and this is the second payoff for services.
Sure. Renee, do you want to come up and speak to that?
I know we were trying to meet, but it didn't.
I apologize, I was doing professional
Yeah, I just want to understand it better, and then I can set up another meeting too.
Hi, welcome.
Board Superintendent. This is Perkins rural allocation that comes through to us every year. It's a entitlement award along with the post-secondary and the secondary Perkins titles. Once you are under a certain number, dollar amount, that award has to go through another agency, being Daytona State for us. And so you'll see a contract with both the post-secondary and the rural allocation. And this specific one is for Daytona State to come and recruit our students for programs that they can continue on to an AS degree or another certificate or ATD program that they can increase their knowledge base in. So for instance, one would be our EMT program. So they would come in and recruit our students for EMT to go into the next level, which is paramedics program. And also we have an articulation with them into their AS program for medics. So that is what the specific contract pays for.
So we work with them. They come and all the students that we have that potentially can go on to their programs. Okay.
We have the additional programs that qualify for that are HVAC apprenticeship program, electrical apprenticeship programs, our heavy equipment operator program qualifies for that, as well as our early childhood education apprenticeship programs. All have articulation agreements into Daytona State.
And we have 3 apprenticeship students that are at Daytona State right now. So
3
that we
apprenticeship students?
I think, right, don't we have 3 apprenticeship students that are at Daytona State?
If we do, they wouldn't be enrolled through us. They would be enrolled through Daytona State.
Then coming back to us, okay. All right.
Our articulation agreements are to go from the apprenticeship program into an industrial management degree.
Got it.
So those who want to open their own business, that kind of thing.
All right. Thank you for sending the contract.
All right. So that moves us on to deletion of inventory, 7.04.
I did have another question on vendor payments. So, Ms. Wormack, I see that you do a great job of creating a separate report on legal services, but it looked like that they're not, there are other legal services on the vendor payments that are not reflected there. Is that just because those are the contracted legal services on our behalf? And then the flip side of that is, what's the totality of outstanding legal services that we have to yet owe?
Sure. The vendor payments that you specifically asked about for Height and Height and Portfolio Recovery Associate, they are employee payroll deductions for garnishments. So yes, it is a legal firm, but it's not something the district is engaging with. One of the other ones is Bush and Augsburger, and that was remaining legal fees for a former employee settlement. The settlement was already paid out. These are just the end of the legal fees. As far as your question regarding what is the totality, that is not something finance knows. That's a question that should be posed to legal. We literally just get the invoice.
Okay. So you're saying that many of these legal fees that we see on here are not ones that are actions against us. It's that we are paying that law firm somebody's salary because they're having their wages garnished?
Yes, it's garnished wages, and I think the main way that you can kind of determine that is by the dollar amount of it.
Okay.
If it's a few $100s, it's garnished wages for that month. Even though we have a bi-monthly payroll, but what you're going to see is the monthly amount, because the wires that we send to these companies is done once a month.
Okay.
So it's both payrolls. So if it's a few $100s, it's most likely a garnishment.
Okay. And then there was a budget transfer. I'm sorry, I think that might be on the budget amendments. Never mind, I'm sorry, I'm a little ahead of myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So 7.04, deletion of inventory. Any questions there?
The only thing I really had, and maybe we may have discussed this before, but everything basically is going to be no return to us, like we can't recoup any costs for any of these items whatsoever. I mean, is that the case?
So we're right now, Carrie is in the middle of working with the schools and departments on their annual inventory, which is why this list seems to be pretty long. We're starting to get their inventory back as to what needs to be removed. Any kind of any kind of technology items, it's usually cannibalized for parts. So there's nothing really left of it. What we normally do auction is the vehicles, and as you can see, some gym equipment. Those are the typical items that we would auction if they're worthy of getting something back. But looking at some of the dates on some of these, the ones that say to be junked at the bottom, if you could scroll up, please. The French horn, the tuba, I mean, you can see how old some of those are. Yeah. So they're used way past their max life.
There's a wrestling mat from 1974, as old as I am.
Where did we find these? There's no value
left. We squeeze the life out of everything we own, apparently.
It's on Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
I was trying to find a way to be cannibalized. I mean, just a lot of these I was more talking about the computers and so forth with Mac, and they would not take anything back, even look at these,
Mr.
maybe
D
giving us
seems,
a credit for
Mr.
anything.
D seems to
Because some of the items that we are able to get.
There are some. So when you see some of these on there, some of them are sat and cannibalized, even to some extent with the shells and things that are left, even after we, recoup some of the parts that can be used across the fleet. When we are surplusing those, some of those items that we worked with our Ed Foundation years ago are donated to them. Some of them then they take, whether to support the community with different projects. Some of it goes to auction. Some of it goes to surplus vendors and companies. So there is a dollar amount. I couldn't tell you exactly what that is off the top of my head, but there is a combination of things of where those go. So there is value in some of this stuff, whether it's from parts and repairing other devices, but when they are then surplus, there is a value for some of those, and typically what we'll be working through those is
the different paths. Some of them make sense, they can have continued use. Some of them get donated to, again, to the Ed Foundation, where they work with community partners, as well as some surplus pieces to recoup some of those costs. And then they typically use those dollars to support the programs that are part of the Education Foundation. And those are things that we've had in place for several years. It was a big project with Joe Rizzo, Trevor Tucker, and a couple other board members at the time. And really the conversation and everything revolved around how do we support our community? How do we give back to them? And it really was around continuing to use those dollars to support kids. So we can't say, hey, here's a device, I want to support such and such a program out in the community, or I can't, help a student when they need a device, and, I'm going off to college. Some of those types of scenarios, when you talk about some of those programs, we are not able to do that, but we are able to donate those devices to the Ed Foundation, and then them work with those organizations and families to best support them.
You said exactly what I wanted everyone to hear, so thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Casey. All right, if there aren't any other questions, then we will move on to 7.05, board approval of finance budget amendments.
I did have a question about the budget transfer 24-00713, salaries, contracted services for RES instructional allocation that we weren't able to fill. I was just wondering what type of, do you have an idea, and that's general, it might be testing your memory, what services could we not replace that staff member
ESE,
with?
staffing, what is it?
Sometimes it's typically like
SLPs.
speech language,
Speech language.
School psychology,
Okay.
those types of positions.
It's all under ESE.
Okay, and we see those typically out on the vendor payment, so, why was this a budget transfer? Is it to move it from one funding bucket to
Because
another?
when the budget is done each year, every school has their allocations for the next fiscal year. It's all budgeted into salaries. So if that position is not able to be
I
filled,
see.
then we have to contract those services. So it's two different object codes. So we have to take it from the salary object, move it to contracted services to cover the cost of that contract for the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So that moves us to 7.06, request board approval for district financial statements. Any questions on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, then that completes finance, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to academic services, mental health MOU 9.01, Ms. Brandy Williams and Mr. John Finelli. Welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Chairman Furry, School Board, Superintendent Moore. We are here today to share with you 3 memorandum of understandings for community mental health providers. We create these memorandum of understandings with these shared community partners to help to cover the responsibility of mental health services for our students. So we do have internal capacity to serve, but we also work with community providers to meet that need. These are updated MOUs to include a data privacy sharing agreement. And the reason for that is there was some new legislation that came out that requires us to, with any outside provider that we provide information to enter into a shared data privacy agreement to ensure that that data is not shared from when we share it, that they cannot share it outside of their organization, and that the data that we provide to them is kept on servers in the United States. So they cannot share that data on a server that's outside of the United States. We have 3 different providers before you today: Collinear, All Therapies, and Adapt. And I have Ms. Brandy Williams, our counseling coordinator, here to answer any specific questions you may have about those providers.
So these are not new contracts, agreements, these are just modifications because of that, that new legislation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me expand on that a little bit.
So there were a few changes that were made in the memorandum of understandings, and it was really just around how often they needed to give us updates for once they receive a referral for a student.
Okay.
So the memorandum of understanding includes their services, their documentation requirements, and their processes on how they get access to the student and things like that when they come to our campus. So one of the pieces that we require of them is that they update us on every referral until it closes at the end, every 2 weeks. And the 2 weeks was becoming quite cumbersome for them. So now we're asking for every 2 weeks until the student is engaged, and then once the student is engaged, every month, and or anytime there's a significant change in the mental health status.
So how do you define engaged?
So started services, they've attended
Okay.
at least one appointment.
Okay, so after that, so you're saying, tell us about the outreach to get them to come, and then once they start coming, it's once a month?
Correct.
And
'Cause that's usually
unless
when we
they
do some.
stop coming, is there a clause if they stop coming, then you also
They
get a
notify
notice?
us. Yeah, they do, when they are non-attendant.
The only thing I had with these, can you open up one of those real quick? One of the links, so the dates.
Yes.
The dates don't seem quite
So
right to me.
this started July 1st, because that's when the student data privacy agreement was made available to them. So last year, that's when it was provided to them. We have current MOU agreements that were already in with these agencies. They just are our older agreements. So when we handed them the updated agreement along with the student data privacy agreement, it took them a bit to process through the student data privacy agreement. I don't know if you scrolled through and saw the student data privacy agreement, but it is quite extensive. And most of our mental health providers had some lengthy questions regarding
So
what
they
was
had to
in
have
the
their
data
legal
privacy.
team review
Correct.
it and make sure
Yes.
that they had the capacity to meet the requirement.
That's exactly right. Each legal team for each of these providers, they always have questions and concerns and things that we have to work through. Then it goes back to our legal, we answer those questions, it goes back to their legal. So it is a quite cumbersome process to get to the end agreement with each community provider.
Okay, so did we have a situation where the law was in effect, but then these MOUs were not aligned? And so what happens to student data in the interim of that?
So in the old MOUs, there was data privacy and confidentiality put in there, but not to the level of what it is now. So we still were under a data privacy agreement that was built into the MOU for not sharing that data, but it didn't include things like maintaining the data on a server in the United States. So this new data privacy agreement is there's a lot more involved in it than what was in the old one. So we did have that in the old one, but not to the extent that we have it in the new
Yeah,
one.
I was just wondering if, did they have to change any of their do we know if they had to change in their practices in order to come into compliance, which would have meant that there might have been a span of time in which there was not compliance because they needed to change, and they already had our student data for the students we submitted?
So I would have to ask them specifically. I'm not sure if this caused them to have a change in how they operate at all. That I don't know.
On the exhibits that are indicated where they're asked to answer those questions, all of those systems were in place for these three that returned the agreement in its totality.
So how many more do we have outstanding?
We still have approximately 4 outstanding that we're waiting.
And
on
as the
receiving.
same dates as these guys?
Correct.
So I can just go back to the dates again. We started on last year, and we're gonna approve that this year, meaning if we do approve it at the next meeting. Is there, and the superintendent and the school board chairman are gonna sign this at this time, but it seems to me like we're saying, on this date, we did it. Meaning the agreement made and entered into on the first day of July 2024. Legally, we did not, I don't think, and Mr. Delaney can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it doesn't seem like that would be right.
It won't be until the date that it
An
is
addendum?
signed by the board.
I would imagine.
Okay, so we're gonna go in and change the
We can
entire
adjust,
document?
we can adjust the dates.
Okay, that's all I'm asking, because that's just what I'm looking at. I'm making
Yeah.
sure this is not the actual one that would be.
So we can adjust the dates to the date of the board meeting when you
Yes.
guys vote on it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, great.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this MOU? These MOUs? No?
Thank you.
Okay.
No, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
very
guys.
much. Okay, so now we're going to move on to 9.02 FTC donations. Ms. Kirkland.
Afternoon, Chair, Board, Superintendent Moore. This afternoon, I'd like to present that the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services proposes to donate 3 covered trailers to Flagler County Schools for use in Flagler Technical College's commercial vehicle driving program. The donation of these trailers will significantly increase our operational efficiency in our workforce development programs. The donation is valued at $135,000 and brings our trailers up to 2021 and 2022 status,
Wow, that's
as
great.
most of our other trailers are over 20 years old.
That is a great news. Was that the one you were
Yes, it's
involved
the
with,
work
Mr.
of
Barnes?
Mr. Bars.
Yeah,
Yes,
this was
like,
Great.
Well done.
Thank you
Mr.
for that
Bars
effort.
for coordinating
Yes.
that for us.
That's
Yes.
a
Good for the
great,
program.
Get that.
great gift to this district. Thanks for putting that together. Wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there any other questions?
No.
Okay, then, thank you very much, Ms. Kirkland, for
Okay.
sharing
I'll
that
just say
great
one
news.
thing, just for the public, just thankful for the partnerships that we have with agencies like this to continue this work, and she has built that relationship now, so I believe we'll be able to go back. We're actually looking for something else for them.
Yes.
So actually looking for a truck tractor that will help pull these, and so when they seize one from some drug dealers and things of that nature, maybe we'll get one.
There we go.
We're raising our hand for
Gift
that.
keeps on giving, we like that.
We'll stay on top of it.
I wonder, what do we
Yeah.
need vehicles like this? All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
We
thank
don't
you.
want Mr. Bars, thank you.
I don't want to know, that's exactly right.
That's a whole nother conversation.
All right, so we'll now move on to 9.03, student travel consent. Mr. Reeves. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Commissioner Furry, our members, Superintendent Moore. Excited to share with you the first one, which are student travel consent. We have several teams moving on from 4 of our schools, from FPC, Matanzas, Indian Trails, and Rimfire for international competition for future problem solvers. And they'll be heading to Bloomington, Indiana soon. And so before you are those 4 requests regarding their travel to that event. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Oh, it is,
Well
it
done.
is, it is. It's a
And just
great
in case members
representation.
of the public are listening, these students are working very hard to fundraise dollars in order for them to be able to go on this trip. And I've had an opportunity to chaperone at the state and the international level, and it is a life-changing experience for our students. And so just want to say thank you to, I know that Ms. Kopak is here representing that program, but for all of our coaches at each of the schools, just thank them for all of their hard work and what they're doing in order to help this continue to be an opportunity for our students.
If you've never had the opportunity just to experience, I got to help them even just pre-work judging their work and stuff and providing support and information. It's a great opportunity just to get involved in that, to see just the tremendous effort and energy these students put into it and the staff that support them. So it's a great opportunity for them. The next travel piece is for the Blue Steel drum group from Matanzas going to Six Flags over Georgia. And that is going to be making a performance there for that event on May 24th and 26th, so before graduation.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them. And then we have a 9.04 is so employee overnight travel. And there's a team from FPC going to an event with Jostens Global School Culture Conference. And it's a great opportunity just to keep building on climate and culture for their school, growing educated morale, school culture and climate, and driving academic achievement. And that's June 28th through June 30th at the travel dates for the June 27th through July 1st, going to San Diego, California. And $400 per person also is covered by Jostens.
They would probably need that GSA travel for that.
Yeah. Jeez. Price of city.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
It is
the whole
expensive.
time when I saw this.
Yeah, $6.
$6 won't cover much there.
No.
$10?
Not even a bagel.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess.
All right.
I'll resume our 3 p.m. workshop. So with this leads us now to operational services, 10.01, interlocal agreement with school board and Volusia County educational services. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Furry, board members, and Superintendent Moore. I'm bringing to you the interlocal agreement between the school boards of Flagler and Volusia on the provision of school education services. If you would look at your screen, those are the proposed attendance boundaries. On the southwest side would be your Volusia County attendance zone, where Flagler students will be attending Volusia schools, pathways, elementary, Hinson Middle, and Mainland High School. On the northeast side would be your Flagler attendance zone, where Volusia students will be attending Flagler schools, Buddy Taylor, Flagler, Palm Coast, and Old Kings. And then, next slide, please. These are the highlights of the agreement. The agreement establishes school zones. As mentioned, Volusia schools will create a school zone for pathways, Hinson, Middle, and Mainland High School, and Flagler for Old Kings, Flagler, Palm Coast, and Buddy Taylor. And this will start next school year, 25-26, for 1 year, and then 9 automatic renewals through annual board resolution at the start of around of the school year or the fiscal year. And then part of the agreement provides for the revocation of school choice or controlled open enrollment. The students will be, one of those will be the 6 or more unexcused absences and tardies in grading period. And then concerning discipline or serious threat for CESAR definitions, then maintenance of a cumulative GPA of 2.0 or higher. And as much as possible, the movement of the student would be at the end of a grading period or semester. Seniors, as much as possible, should not be removed unless the cause is for serious threat. And then for Volusia County, they will not be any serious offenses. They will not be eligible for disciplinary transfer to Riverview Learning Center, which is one of their alternative learning schools. And then the agreement also provides for how both districts will share information. There will be no exchange of funds, and then where, when, and if necessary or appropriate, how student transportation will be coordinated. And then all students will be subject to both school board's policy on student conduct and discipline. And then it also provides for amendments and terminations. There will be an annual meeting on or before December the 1st, so that both districts may decide to amend or terminate the agreement. And then school choice departments will be are assigned as the superintendent's designee or point of contact for the agreement. If you would look at the next slide, these are our students that are attending Volusia schools. We provided information on how many students are attending. Keep in mind that these are day 20 numbers for Volusia. They are that was done in September 2024, so they may have changed. We are trying to obtain the reasons for the variances, the controlled enrollment reasons, and I have not received that as of yet. And then if you go to the next slide, these are Volusia students that are attending Flagler schools. It does not show. There are other students north of the county, but we just provided Volusia students attending Flagler schools. Any questions?
When I looked at this, it said Tomoka, but it's Pathways.
Yes,
Okay.
there has been some change from LaShakia schools. Pathways Elementary is the nearest one
Right.
to the north,
That
to the
was-
southeastern
yeah.
border.
That was my main
southwest.
question. I was like, making
Originally, they were talking about Pathways being at capacity, but they're
Yes.
expanding and then they're going to rezone.
Okay. And so there is the potential, I mean, we're thankful to Volusia for doing this, but there is potential that they could help with transportation, maybe.
If and when required, for example, a student has an IEP that requires transportation, then that will be coordinated between the two student transportation departments.
Yeah, otherwise though, the parent is responsible.
Yes.
Yeah, for both ways,
Yes.
right?
That is correct.
And just to clarify for everybody, this is in order to help make the travel or the distance for a student to the closest school less, because they're living in the extreme areas of each of these counties. And that overall, the net is almost a wash between Volusia and Flagler here. So now, I guess one of the questions that I might have is that, are there any, and this might not be in your purview, is there any proposed developments that would change the student population in these areas?
On the southwest, that would be Hunter's Ridge DRI. There's about, let's see, 1,966 students, but so far they have not started building. It's in the southwest border, about, I would say 12 students that might be generated on all levels, but right now we have not, there's not a lot of students there yet.
That's something that's gonna have to be addressed though, when it gets to that point though.
Yeah.
Once it gets built out, we're talking about, I mean, that'd be probably 15 years.
Now, they did.
20 years.
Hunter's Ridge, did they finally complete their
Yes.
payments?
Yes.
So that's, okay, so the movement will start, they'll
Yeah.
start moving dirt soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
And it does say in the agreement, if there's space. So I would imagine if we are at capacity with our Flagler County, then per the agreement, we can deny because of that. So that should help with.
For statute, yes.
Yeah, so.
And each December, staff will get together from those two, for the two districts, and really look at projected numbers as to if we will continue into the next year. To the question around as they begin to develop, if there is a need for us to look at these attendance zones again.
It is good that we do this, because I've met people recently, they're on the border. And I mean, imagine being that person, so it's nice that we have the opportunity for those families, so.
Well, we have calculated the average travel time by private vehicle from the south to Old Kings. It's about 30 minutes by private vehicle through I-95, so it is a long drive.
But some of those students are going to Benell too. I think that's what
There
they're.
are, yes.
It's quite a drive, yeah.
Okay, any other questions on this matter?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate the presentation. Okay, so that now moves us on to human resources, so good, we got Bob at the table already.
Put my hat up.
So we've already did 11.01 earlier, so we will move on to 11.02, request for approval of personnel items.
And this is, as always, the first draft that you're going to see. It should fill up and have more information when we get to the 22nd.
Okay. All right, no questions, well, thank you, Mr. Olet, appreciate it. Yep. So we have already done 14.01, so we will move past that to 15.01, adoption of revisions of school board policy. Mr. Deasing.
So we are bringing back these two policies to you for review. Well, actually for approval at the night meeting this month. So you've had this before you previously as a recommend to advertise. So we have gone through that. By the time that we get to the night meeting, that will have met the 30 days out. We have made the one recommended change prior to advertising. Is there any other questions or concerns about these two policies before they come before you later this month for approval?
None. Thank you for the changes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're all set?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that leads us to 15.02, Memorandum of Agreement of Data Sharing, Collaboration with University of Florida Board of Trustees.
So we're bringing this memorandum of agreement and data sharing agreement before you with a bit of urgency. We have an opportunity to work on a grant program that I think is a really great opportunity for Flagler schools and students with the University of Florida Laster Center, as well as Khan Academy and Conmigo. So if you guys can recall, we did get a bit of attention with some of the work that our teams have done here in the last few months, but that has actually garnered us some opportunity. So I've asked Sarah and Teresa Phillips, who's done most of the work, and this has been a great combination tag team effort with Jeff Reeves and the teaching and learning team and our technology folks to kind of really bring this to fruition. So I'm going to really let them kind of dig into the nuts and bolts and really talk to you guys about how we got this opportunity and how we're in the mix of working through this, but we're very optimistic and hopeful we'll have a great memorandum of agreement and data sharing to share with you when we get to the night meeting this month.
Good afternoon. If it's okay, I'd like to just give you a quick overview of Conmigo. So Conmigo is an AI-powered tutor and teaching assistant built right into Khan Academy. It offers equitable, personalized support, whether students are catching up, keeping up, or moving forward. They have material aligned to the Florida Best Standards, AP courses, and the SAT. And Conmigo helps students build real understanding through guided questioning and step-by-step problem solving. Whether they use it during class or for independent practice, Conmigo helps make that high-quality math learning accessible to all students.
And as we mentioned earlier, with the AI update, we did do a pilot this year with Conmigo with about 250 students, some middle school students in high school classes, as well as some high school students that were taking math for college algebra, just to see how it worked, get feedback from the students and the teachers as well. And we did get some pretty positive feedback with that and even recognition.
Yes, in fact, our Flagler district was recognized by Khan Academy for placing 5th in a national contest. It was called the Con-Athlon for AI Explorers. And the competition, it ran from December to January, but it was really impressive. I know it's only 5th place, but our teachers in this small pilot program only were into this for about 2 months before they started this competition. And our top performance was one of Miss Antos's class at Buddy Taylor Middle School. And 96% of her students averaged about 5 AI chats throughout this competition. So we were proud to celebrate that. 2 of the Khan Academy team members came out and celebrated, so that was very exciting. Currently, our pilot classes at FPC and Matanzas are averaging around 6 chats per student, and BTMS is up to about 14 on average.
So what's the significance of the number of chats when you say that? Like,
So the chats are, interactions are back and forth between the student and the Conmigo AI tutor.
So you're measuring that as them reaching out for help, and then the tutor, and if you've ever seen this Conmigo, it's pretty fascinating. A lot of people think AI is cheating, but it's not. And the way that they've set it up is they try to pull more information out of the student's brain, and so it isn't just automatically giving that answer. So you're saying that those number of chat interactions indicate that the student is responding almost as if a teacher were doing like a Socratic methods in front of the student.
Exactly.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Is it a, like the user interface, is it text input or is it a voice input?
Both.
Okay,
It can be both. You can listen to the feedback, you can read it, or have audio feedback, and then you can speak to text, or you can type it in, and there are additional keys for like specific math symbols and that type of thing.
Okay, so when you're doing it with your voice, it's speech to text. It's not like a conversational type of thing.
Right.
Gotcha.
It'll go speech to text, but then you can listen back to the response as well.
Gotcha.
So, and then while we were actually there with the recognition ceremony, one of the kids is like, my sister wants to know how she can get access to this tool. And, but this agreement with the Lastinger Center would allow us to actually give this tool to all of our students, grades 6 through 12. And they would have access to it. It is grant funded and aimed at enhancing. It's called the Florida Tutoring Advantage Program, which is looking at enhancing the tutoring and then using AI-powered quality tools like Conmigo's tool. So this would allow us to go ahead and introduce it this upcoming year, so they would have access to it now, even throughout the summer and into next year. It's about a value of $73,000 when we look at just being able to provide this to all of our students, 6 through 12.
So they'd be able to access it right on their device?
So they just log in through ClassLink, and it's completely web-based, so they can access it on their device, they can access it on their phone, they can access it at home, all kinds.
Oh, okay, so even on their own device, outside of their school device?
It's probably logging into like their
Okay.
Flagler.
Right.
The ClassLink.
Yeah.
ClassLink, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
So in this MOU, it's between UF is listed in here. So tell me how, because there's some data, I guess.
So this is the piece that I said was a piece of urgency, meaning the work that our teachers have done and the attention that has gained us was actually the Lastinger Center that was able then to reach out and ask us to be part of this. Previous to that announcement and that work that the teachers in our district had done, we were not invited to be a part of this program. So there are districts that they're a couple months ahead of us. So there is a sense of urgency to get these. We have a couple of pieces within the agreement that we are still addressing. So this is not the final. I'll let Teresa and Sarah talk a little bit about.
Where's the data pass back
So
between our students and
we
you?
have a data sharing agreement that is already in place with Khan Academy and Conmigo. So those are in place. So the next piece of it is the data sharing, or this agreement, an MOU, that will then allow the Lastinger Center access into essentially our
Khan dashboard.
Is it because they're trying to also do
They're-
studies to determine how effective this is?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
they're
they're
doing
doing that.
research.
They're doing
Yeah.
research.
They want the interactivity, not the student identification information that's
For
protected under
them,
FERPA.
it would
Right,
be
okay.
randomized data.
Sure.
And our advantage of it, and I think this is just absolutely huge, because this is very, very interesting technology, very appropriate along the lines of what we are trying to do as a district to continue to move forward. What really gives us the opportunity is some real research-based information to give back about the value of what that is. So if you can imagine, thinking
That's the
about
big
trying to
question
do
in
those, right?
education, right?
$75,000,
Is this gonna do
$80,000, to be able to target those in those students, and every one of our students to have that opportunity. For us to do this ourselves would be very difficult, and we'd have to target smaller groups to be able to do this. So we're going to be part of a larger group. We're going to have access to some of that research, the once it's done.
They're gonna
And
give
then
you
that will
that
help
information
us
back?
decide
Yeah.
where do we target, how do we do this, what is the most bang for our buck for
exciting.
Flagler schools
Yeah.
to move this forward. So if we get feedback that says, really, these are the grade levels and these are the topics where we see, because we have the opportunity with this data to also cross-reference the student performance as well. And those are pieces that we're going to be trying to look at to tie some of those things in. That's why I say the conversation with our teaching and learning team has just been fantastic, because we're able to really dig in and use the technology and then align it with not just grade level, but along with individual content areas, which is really
there might be a sweet spot, right?
Right, because right now we're kind of targeting these couple of specific areas for the ELA, particularly around, in math. But if you look at Conmigo and Khan Academy, there's a lot of content that goes, across the board. So you look at some of maybe opportunities down the road where you're looking at maybe some social studies stuff or history, but it's fun if you haven't had a chance to play with, it sounds like you have, to just kind of go back and forth. It's not like sitting down and going, Alexa, tell me, where is Rome? Like, it's gonna push you through asking you questions rather than just responding. That's the difference between, like, when we type in Google and see what it gets. So it's really in a manner of using that AI for prompting and to getting more information back from the students so that they're more truly learning than just regurgitating what they got, if that makes
What I like,
sense.
so-
That's the exciting part.
Teresa, I think, was it you, we were talking at Science Night? So kids now, they're asking Alexa, what is this? Google, or they're YouTubing, but when they're using this tool, it's, in my opinion, as a parent, safer. Instead of going to YouTube to see how to do an algebra equation, because that's what they're doing, because they can't remember what their teacher said or what they posted, they can talk through this as their tutor, but their teacher can set up certain aspects of how it can.
Right, it'll do
yeah,
both.
so it's almost like they're with their teacher, but not really. So I don't know. I'm really excited.
The teacher can set it up, and then there's also
Yeah.
just a tutor me where they can ask.
So it's to me, it's safer than just
And there's-
Googling, Alexaing, and YouTubing.
And a great
more
SAT
accurate.
SAT prep
It
programs
has
included in it
measures on
too.
it,
It's
so
And the
really
feedback from our teachers that have participated in our pilot here have been just fantastic, and it was very, very promising. I think that's the excitement
I think the
that
student
comes back to
feedback
this
was
partnership
even
with the
better.
University of Florida, with being able to be tied with some bona fide research around this, and then not having any direct cost. I mean, we were looking at what does this look like for us next year and trying to find how do we fund that, what can we pull from half cent? And this really covers that and really just puts us in a position of, this is exactly what we would like to do if we didn't have to worry about funding.
Yeah, it's like a wish list, and now it could happen.
And then we'll have feedback to support it. And I think part of the Lastinger Center is trying to show that it is worth it and is working, to try to get additional funding for it in the coming too.
What were some of the feedback from the students that you
The
don't mind sharing?
students, they had the opportunity to actually talk to some of the developers from Con that came down.
Really?
And their questions were just unbelievable. They were like, well, why didn't it tell me the answer? And then, or they had asked questions about their jobs and roles.
One of them asked, when could they start working for?
Yeah, I think he asked, what's the starting pay?
But
That's a middle school student,
Yes, that
right?
was a middle
It was
school.
neat, and he's like, yeah, I wish I would have gotten the feedback in this form, and the person's like, well, did you ask it and tell it that you'd rather have a video or you'd rather have a bulleted list? So they can kind of customize
See, that's
those
fascinating.
pieces
People aren't
back
used
and
to
forth.
being able to tell a computer how they want the information.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's neat because this will help them and tutor them in the subject of math, but it's also teaching them how AI works and how they can use those
Right.
tools in lots of other areas too. So that's kind of.
Some other feedback I got from one of the high school teachers was some of her students that were more hesitant to ask questions during class
Would do that.
would go onto the Conmigo.
That's a good
They felt
point.
more comfortable.
Yeah, I see here in the contract, it does say it's de-identified data, so it won't tag back to an individual student using it. It's just the functions that were used, analytics. So, but when they're using it in the user interface, is there a history of what they've done on there?
There is.
Now, who can access that?
So the teachers can see it, and we can also, and district level can see it, and we can even, there's even like alert systems in there too, where you can specify if it's something that pops up a red flag, people will be notified, just like a lot of our other systems.
Okay. And I suppose they could also use the history themselves to go back, without re-going through the exercise, they can see the results of that they already did as a reference? Okay. This seems pretty intuitive, yeah.
It's a great opportunity, it really is.
I was excited to have a scientific calculator.
I don't even think they use those anymore. Like,
They do.
we
We do.
No, they still do.
I think this is just another showing of what I think we all believe of where our district is going. And the work that is being put in by our staff and then with our students as well. And then also it's free. I mean, that's even better. But what it's going to produce, though, is what I'm saying. And then for us to be on the mat, to be asked to do that, I think it's fantastic, and I applaud all of you for that. So thank you so much.
Like I said, it's been an awesome partnership with our teaching and learning team to pull this together.
Fantastic
And
work.
with UF, maybe we can get some basketball tickets.
Well, go get it,
I think partnering, like, once it's all said and done, like, with communications, you know, having them spearhead this, and, you know, we're trying to get more students, like, hey, look what Flagler has that you may not have the opportunity at your home school, or maybe this is a good learning opportunity, like, if you want that, we can offer that to you, so.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Exciting stuff. Okay, so that takes us on to 1701 use of facilities, Mr. Corey Bush.
Hello again, Mr. Bush.
Welcome, Mr. Bush.
Good afternoon. I am up here to, we had spoke, I believe, at the last meeting that we talked about the use of facilities and adding.
We have a request from Catalyst.
Yes, thank you.
To be added to your waived fee list for use of facilities. And so Mr. Bush has brought before you your current list. If Mr. Nayat will click on that current list of your waived fee individuals, and they are asking to be on the non-paying list. Catalyst is, and we do have Ms. Benzo here from Catalyst. If there are any questions that we have, that you have as a board that we are unable to answer. We did share with you the proposal that was provided from Catalyst. We also shared with you as a board through email the flyer that was referenced from Ms. Macero that was used in Volusia County.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, because it's not just about using the facilities, it's about providing the summer program.
Would you like me to bring Ms. Benzo up for some questions?
Yeah, that would be
please
great.
Come on up.
Sorry, I'm just tripped up.
Oh, you're good, take your time.
Okay, I'll be fine, thank you. We're just going to sit
And
right over here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was going to say good evening or good night.
Well, we're getting there.
We're getting there. Okay.
So with the summer program, and we appreciate you reaching out and generosity, and I'm very excited about it. The curriculum that's provided, as you know, in this day and age, we have to ensure that the curriculum used is reviewed and kind of meets that stamp of approval. Has this been submitted to our teaching and learning department so that they've been able to review and assure that it aligns with all of the state requirements?
So this, the curriculum has not. So this program would not be a Flagler Schools program. This program would be a program that Catalyst as an outside agency would be implementing, working with families. And so we would be providing you as a district, as the board through the district, the space that is available. And we would also be, what is requested is that they be allowed to use transportation at the employee rate at the transfer, so that our coaches and things. So this would not be a
it would be like a vendor, and
absolutely.
that if families were to participate, it would be clear that there's a distinction that this is not Flagler schools, that this is a separate
It's just using
program.
our facility.
Okay.
The request is to use our facility. It is not, will not be our programs. It will be housed at Beltier Elementary School, where some of our summer academic programs will be, but there will be a distinction between the two, that this is Catalyst, we are Flagler Schools, and it's very different. Similar to Boys and Girls Club, how Boys and Girls Club utilizes the facility.
Okay. And then how, so for example, the sign up, is it that you would be partnering with our communication team in order to promote the ability for families to take advantage of this program?
That can be done that way. Usually what happens is the staff the site director, the program director, who's Miss Brown, Miss Brown in Volusia County, have flyers. We go to all the events in the area, submit the flyers. We speak to the schools, like the elementary schools and the middle schools, and even the high school, because there's a 9th grade capacity at this. And so some of the 9th graders that are not doing well may choose to go to the 9th grade reading level at our academy. And plus, it's a lot of fun. They're engaged in all kinds of things, including AI. I'm glad to hear about that. It's just an experience for them during the summer. That gets them excited about learning. Yes, introduces their community of adults who are doing things in the community to them, and then also gets them connected to the students down in Volusia County. I was glad to hear about that border thing that you have going on there. It's about just connecting these young people, getting them excited about having a great summer together. Go on.
No, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. No. The staff that would be delivering the services for this program, are these your in-house staff, or would you be recruiting from our staff?
We'll be recruiting here.
Okay.
We'll be recruiting 5 college students and 2 high school students.
So you would be using students, not necessarily the
No, they're not
educators,
teachers.
the teachers.
No.
So when you said that's 5 altogether, that means
That's 5 adults, right?
I think it's 1 to
6
10
adults
ratio.
and 2
for
high
kids.
school, senior and juniors. They are part of that staff.
Okay, when you say the 5 adults, though, those are the college?
It's 8 of them, yes, they're college.
Okay.
And the site director is usually a teacher or someone who's already been in our program.
Are background checks done on all the?
Yes, they are. Including the, what is it,
Jessica Lunsford.
Jessica Lunsford.
So
Yes,
that
all
would
of them
mean
get
that they would have to make sure, since they're going to be on our campus with our students there, we'll have to make sure that they go through our background check to
Correct.
ensure that is being done.
Correct.
I have, go ahead.
Oh, well, there's just a couple of things. Is this actually, I had called down to Volusia, and somebody had told me it's not happening there anymore. Is it still, are you still doing the summer camp in Volusia also?
Yeah, we do it in,
I guess we got some bad information. I just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that.
we were just.
But you have a summer camp in?
We have, it's not a camp, it's an academy.
Academy, excuse me.
Okay. So we have 3 sites. One's at the Pine Ridge Mill High School, one at the Land High School, and one is at Mainland. Actually, we were at Mainland yesterday to confirm the sites, the rooms, and what we're doing in terms of the calendar, whether they're going to be open Juneteenth or not. We need to figure that out in our schedule so that we can make the appropriate accommodations for that day.
Okay.
So yes, we are doing that.
Great. So, the one thing that, anything that can help advance academic outcomes, I think is worthy of, exploring. The one thing we have to look at here is there are many people that want to use our facilities, right? And so we have to, in my view, there has to be a clear merit to this effort on whether we would provide the use of facilities at no cost. And one of the things that, for me, that I'd like to see is that, how long has this program been?
6 weeks, it's 10 years.
10 years, right. So do you have any measurable positive outcomes that where you had students where they've come in and clearly measured that the following school year that they've increased their reading scores after attending your program?
Yes, we do have that. It's not as clear as that all of them have graduated from high school. It's 100% graduation.
Well, yeah, nothing's going to do 100%, but what I'm saying is...
But what I'm saying is that we can clearly say to you, those that have attended this are kids that were at risk of not graduating at all because they were poor readers, they had issues in school, didn't want to go to school, so attendance was another thing. So they were having problems in school itself. with the reading, I'm trying to work that out this year with the school, the district, to see how we can measure that, because it's been an issue of confidentiality between the two of us and trust. But this year, we're going to have alpha codes on their applications and permission from the parents to follow them up in school. So we will be able to get that information from them. Do you have alpha codes? Is that how you are?
We would not provide that information. That information would have to be provided from the family directly, unless it is something that we keep in our general directory information.
Okay. Well, it's on the application, so the parents are providing it.
Yeah, the parent would have to.
Right. But do you have alpha codes?
We have flea IDs on all of our students.
And my only other concern is that the curriculum hasn't been vetted. You know, if a parent finds something questionable in their opinion of the curriculum, or it potentially could go against, you know, our state standards, we are then, you know, we've kind of subsidized this program in our district without reviewing what is being shared with the participants in the academy. So these are my concerns that I'm bringing forward, and then again we have to look at how do we going forward determine who gets this help and who doesn't. So that these are there's just some other things to measure here. I just want to throw out there. So I'll yield it with that for the
moment. How do you handle if you get an overabundance of applicants that per seat? You know, how do you choose?
The computerized system that we have starts accepting at 60.
Okay, so you just, it's first come, first served.
It's first come, first served, and it's free.
How do you handle if a child's being disruptive to others that are trying to learn? Would they stay in the program?
This is not a school system. It's not a school setting, first of all. It's smaller. They develop very rapidly a relationship with the adults that they're working with. We don't have disruptions. We don't have cursing out. We don't have fights either. I'm not saying that we won't ever have them, but I'm just saying that's not how we handle things with them. And so they seem to understand that, and they seem to work with it. You know, our focus is the social, emotional intelligence of these young people. And that has to do with knowing who you are, right? That's about self-awareness. It's about emotional balance, right? Or management as well. So they seem to just get into it. They relax. It's a relaxed environment. They're in smaller groups. So we're able to cut down on any of that, period. We have not had that. Now, once we did, and that was a child that was mentally unstable, and we just had to stop it, call the parent, and, you know, stay with the child until the parent came. The parent understood what was going on. This is a matter of trust between us and the parents as well. So when you're talking about things that might be inappropriate,
well, it's not,
right? No,
yeah.
but I'm just saying.
And I want to clarify. I'm not suggesting that it would be inappropriate.
I know.
For the
just saying.
But it, you know, there are certain standards now that need to be in public schools. And although yes, this is a separate program. It's not. We're not in partnership per se. But we've had issues.
In partnership.
Well, we would ultimately be partnering by giving you the space there, and that's where I see some concern without vetting what is being taught there. It's just like, for example, we had an issue where there was an outside group using our van. All of a sudden, we became part of this, even though it was an outside organization. But we kind of got lumped into it because they were using our van, right?
Right.
So this is something that we contend with when we do this at the end of the day. And my question, you know, is we're coming up on. I mean, this is a very quick turnaround because end of school, as we all know,
8 years
right,
of us going back and forth about this. This is the furthest we've
And
gotten, that is
I will
true.
agree with you that you have
Yes.
been reaching out, and you've reached out to me and other board members, and I will say that is true.
Right.
But we're here now again, right at the 11th hour, and, you know, I would have expected something more robust of a presentation of what this curriculum looks like, outcomes, things like that, because we just kind of would be just kind of blind trust that these things are going to fall in balance with.
Okay, so now if we're talking about the law, and you know Julie Barrows. Do you know Julie Barrows? From Volusia County, and she's a part of the 7th Circuit. The police come and talk to them. The medical examiner comes to speak to them. Lawyers come to speak to them about law. The tech people from Daytona State come and talk to them. The first responders come to speak to them. We are not driving a specific curriculum with them that, you know, says that they have to learn certain amount of information about X, Y, and Z. There is a sharing that's going on between them and the adults. That is what's going on. So I don't see how we can talk in terms of a specific curriculum other than we are trying to expose them to their community at large and the adults that are serving them in these communities and opportunities that they may have. We also take them on trips every week. So they will be going to MOAS. They will be going to the colleges down in the Daytona area, like Bethune-Cookman, like Emory-Riddle, like Daytona State, like Stetson, like the chiropractic school as well. They will be visiting the hospitals, both Halifax and Stetson.
Right. Well, what my point is that when you're operating independently on your own, I wouldn't even, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I understand.
But once we're giving a financial benefit by not collecting our use of facilities, now we've kind of given a nod to this in some way, shape, or form and again, I'm not saying that I couldn't be there, but I just don't have all the, I don't have all that.
It could be answered if they're willing to share their curriculum for review.
Well, yeah, but I agree with that, but I'm just saying, we're now, I mean, the end of school is.
Well, can I add something? So,
yes.
Thank you, Dr. Benzo, for coming. So I'm just gonna, like, some of the facts, like, because I know you're asking for a lot of things. So this program, the focus is to help children in our, like, specifically in our community for, you know, reading challenges specifically, but helping them get through life professionally, emotionally, and graduating high school. So, like, data-wise, so I know the data, you're not hearing the data I think you're looking for, but the data that, if you look on the information that they sent out, it shows 100% of students have graduated high school, which is amazing. We want them to finish school.
Yes, we
2017, there was their first 9th grade group. That's the 100% that graduate high school. 100% of them have a career path, so like between military and college, the electrician trainees, or they have a job. So, like, I think...
Or they've been through the police academy or the fire academy as well.
But how did you gather this data? Because
we're in contact with them. We're in contact with their parents.
So it's self-reported. You follow up with them every year.
Yes.
And this is just from them attending one summer, or is this multiple summers?
Most of them have attended 3 or more summers, because it's a 5-year spread, right? And some are just doing 1 year for whatever reason. Like, they may come into it at 8th grade or 9th grade. You know, I can't make them stay for 5 years. But they're coming, they stay in contact. We continue with the other programs. They have in the employment program, the employment prep program that we have. And then in the high school, there is another program called So You Want to Be an Adult. So they've been coming through many different ways into the program. As they come into the program, either they've been one-on-one mentored, or they have been in the youth group mentoring programs as well. And then there are others that just come in from understanding that this is an opportunity for them.
Ms. Moore, I'm wondering about the historical treatment of these programs. Like, for example, when the county had summer camp, they had speakers and field trips and often also some curriculum. Was that curriculum reviewed by the school district when they allowed them to use the facilities?
We do not review it. If they are doing a use of facilities with us, the county, and really, it typically is in the county, it's usually the city of Palm Coast that uses our facilities. It is not. It is a separate entity, and they have limited use of the space. And so they identify what space. Typically is they have our cafeteria in the mornings, but that's changed since they now have the community center. So
Sure.
that agreement has changed over
I was just trying to
time.
like look at, well, how were these situations treated in the past where they're providing some student services that,
I
you
think
know,
the
does it blur this line?
Yeah, I think the difference is they are our county or our city individuals that we already have other agreements with. Catalyst is different, especially as you look at the list of individuals. They're different because they are a private organization that is coming asking for the facilities for the fee to be completely waived.
And we're,
So we're a
Dr.
501c3 that provides a free service for the youth in our communities that we serve. At no time have we had any problems with the content of what we're doing, because the purpose is the kids, is to inspire these children to stay focused.
And where do you guys get your funding from?
Private. We have all kinds of people, the hospitals, businesses, and private people. They just give us
Primarily
funding. And we're
donations.
behind right now because we've been waiting on y'all to raise funds for this activity here.
Well, just a couple of things. I'm trying to draw a distinction between, okay, this is, we're just using our facility just like you would for anybody else. So what you have, you know, that's the distinction. However, I have, from a dollars and cents standpoint, just period, that what's outside of what you're going to be doing, is we are providing, if we do this, we're providing the building. But then I see one of the proposals here is to provide custodial support for a 6-week program. And that has brought up another issue that I've asked Mr. Bush about, other entities that are coming into our facilities that we may be giving them to. Not sure that we should be paying for custodial services for anyone that even we give it to them for free, because then that's a cost that we have to pay for someone to clean our facilities and get it ready for someone else to come in afterwards. That is overtime pay, potentially. A lot of this time is overtime.
Correct. So if there's overtime, if a custodian, they need to come on overtime, then even a waived fee, that will get passed on to them, and they will have to pay for the overtime for the custodian because of that cost. So the waived fee generally we're talking about is the building or the space, if you will, not if there's overtime occurred. There's has been a couple of occasions where that we don't charge them. If it is a district, something that we are doing that would have a custodial and overtime.
I can understand that. I mean, but anything that we do, anything that someone comes in above and beyond that we have to pay that overtime, if we're giving it to them for free, I mean, that piece, to me, is not free.
Correct. That gets passed on to that organization to pay the overtime.
So you invoice them?
So this
Correct,
is
just for the overtime.
This is a public school that is open during the summer, right, for many programs. We are serving your children.
Now, you're private. We may be having programs in our...
We're not private in the sense, we are a nonprofit.
I understand that, but you're not a Flagler Schools.
We don't have to be. Flagler Schools, it's your children.
We understand that.
Okay.
And what I'm saying here is that what you're doing is what we want. I'm not saying that. We're talking about the use of facilities.
Why
Everybody
are we
that
talking about money at this point?
because money is an issue for this district and every other district.
Are you not cleaning those
This-
facilities?
Well, maybe
Well,
the
wait,
students
wait.
may be in a different area, so they would need additional cleaning.
They may
That's
be
what
in a
like, if
different
you're-
area?
Well,
your
if it's
program,
summertime, then
that's
we
what-
don't typically have
like,
the students
use
on
that room.
campus. And so once it's cleaned at the end of the school year, then it typically would not get cleaned as frequently or as, deeply as having 50 kids in a couple of rooms.
Gotcha.
I think
Yeah,
then
but-
then
yeah, but
we
every-
would need to
Yeah.
pay, like daily.
Yeah, every
somebody
day
come
someone would be in that, every day
garbage,
someone would be in that classroom, so it would need to be cleaned, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, our
and-
custodians visit the classrooms daily when there's.
If there's an injury, do you have insurance or how would
Yes,
that
we have
work?
insurance.
And that would be, looks
And
like
we're
it would be
paying
if we
for
rented it out to
the
anyone
bus
else, right?
transport.
It was, going through use of facilities, that's all part of, they have to
Provide
have
the
insurance,
insurance,
yes, upfront.
Yeah,
Even though it's a waived fee, there's still all the
Insurance.
documents and all of that that has to be filled out and making sure that they have that coverage.
So
And
to
to what
me,
Mr. Barnes
I
is
would-
saying is that we applaud you for your efforts in this area, because you are providing an option to the community for the children. And it is a voluntary, they voluntarily come to you and enroll in your program, right? So that's the choice of the parent and the child. So if it was just that case and you were leasing the facilities like everybody else, like I said, we wouldn't really be asking you a lot of these things. But the moment it changes, once we're now giving one program over another, facility use at no cost, and then when the next there's others in the community that probably would like to use our facilities at no cost also. So again, that's why to me it's important that we know more about specifically what a curriculum is and how it all is laid out. I don't want to imply that anything bad is happening here, but the point is, I'm a trust but verify kind of guy, and I just don't know if there's enough time between now and the summer to have this reviewed, to approve it. Had this been come 6 months ago, we could have had this
We were
conversation.
here, and was it September? That
I think
Ms.
it's October.
Bazaar?
Yeah, so the
September,
first
October.
initial
When
request
we
was
had
for
our
use
first
of
meeting.
facilities.
We didn't know whether we had to.
And
go.
our response from use of facilities is, at this time, we cannot identify. The first request came for Benell Elementary. We said, absolutely, we're not having any programs at Benell Elementary School. It is not going to be available. There's work that is going to be done there. Our only facility that will be available will be Belterre, but at this time, we cannot confirm if that is going to have the capacity for what they are requesting. And so our team has worked and identified the space that we're going to use at Belterre. We have identified that there is space available at Belterre, because had it not been, the answer would have just been no for use of facilities, which is what Dr. Benzo, excuse me, not Ms. Benzo, Dr. Benzo experienced last year, that we did not have space available for the program at all. And so at that time, we did identify and said, now as to space, the space is available. However, I cannot provide to you a space at a free cost. That can only be done through the board.
Yes.
So I just want to think, so I'm looking, the different non-paying and paying. So would this be something, so I'm just going back to like training I've had and I think you may have been at one of them, when you put things for budget, and if it's at one of your school initiatives, so reading, we want our kids to read. I just from things I've been learning, I don't feel like taking the expense of, this isn't the time to charge for a place when we're helping our Flagler County kids read, but with the curriculum, so maybe you can help answer this question, and you, Ms. Moore. So I understand there's books included in the program, but curriculum isn't required for us to review because it's not a Flagler County program.
We always provide the books to the staff at the school so that they can review the books and object to whatever is being
And there's
read.
11 books, I believe, or
There's-
16 or
There's
something.
6 books for
Or
each
6,
grade.
yeah.
Yes,
So-
and they usually review them just like Volusia just has, and then they return and say, no, we're not going to let this, no.
So I'm trying to think from, just like, because I hear what your questions are, and I understand the custodial part, because if they're in a different room, you're paying someone else more time. But if it's the fact of the money for the room, if it's for educational purposes, I feel that might, you know, and again, we can brainstorm and think, but if it's curriculum, is that something that there's not that many books, we look at it, but really we don't need to because it's not public schools, or I don't know, I haven't seen.
From my lens, from staff.
Yeah.
You know, how I look at everything in lens of staff. It is either a program that we support or a program we are hands-off with.
Got it.
And if it is a program that we are hands-off with, we will invite them to meetings as we start planning summer. We will make sure that they are safe in the building, they know the rules of the building and those things. But as to what is happening in that area, we are hands-off.
Yeah.
I think the more you get staff involved, then you're thinking about other things that are part, you know, now we're reviewing books, now
So these
we're
things,
making.
the other ones are hands-off though, so.
But I'm saying
But that's what I
in
mean, like, so
general,
we don't
that
need
is-
to be hands-on with the books or the curriculum if they're utilizing our space.
For the proposal that has been provided to us, we would be
Hands-off,
hands-off
yeah.
with the program. This is just a use of facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is not to say that we would not partner with Dr. Benzo to answer questions or whatever those things like we do for other groups, but we would not be going in and saying yes or no to what is happening day by day, resources and those things. What I'm hearing from Chair Furry is just from the lens of why is it that we would say yes to this program with us being hands-off versus another program?
So, yeah, here's an example.
But we have.
Yeah,
If we-
said yes to
I'm
programs.
just going to articulate this thought. So if we as a board, there's no one on this board that does not want to help a child learn to read. But if it is the will of the board to put a program into place to help with that, then we have to have open it up to others to present their program, right?
Are you saying
What
like
is
it
the
would
what
be
is the
a
best
bid on
program?
the space? Is that what you're trying to say? Like,
Well, no, if we're
Because we do
not
have-
bid. If we're going to make a decision here to say, listen, we can't just do it because somebody walks in and says, hey, I want a free classroom because I'm doing great things. There's a lot of people doing great things in the community that could benefit from free use of facilities. The question is what is our initiative as a board? Do we want to take this forward? Do we want to have this be a part of that list, right? And if we're going to put somebody on that list, we should have options from other people providing similar service. If we're going to
Like
make
a
it a
rubric or
long-term
something.
investment in use of facilities, just like, for example, on here, we have government agencies, but we have others that we have, like the Boy Scouts of America. These are long-term relationships. And when we do this, that's really what we're getting into in many cases. So I'm just saying is that, in my mind, is a reason to consider offering facilities at no cost or reduced cost if we're planning on partnering with them to achieve a goal, right?
But what was and I get it,
Right.
because so were all the others, was there a rubric that they went through to get added to that list? Because that's, I mean, obviously,
Well,
I'm
these have
just
been on here for a
wondering.
long time, so I wouldn't say,
But that's where, so that's
they're-
what, I mean, if any, I get, because if what we do for one, we do for everyone, and we investigate and we vet them. So what is the process? Because if that happens, so we have an organization, what did these partners do to get on the list? Like, is there some, like, that's what I mean, I guess that's what we need to figure out.
Well, I agree with most of that. Well, I think that with this, we've opened up something that we're going to need to address outside of this particular request. I think we need to go back and make sure that everyone else is on this list, or what does our policy say, and if we need to tighten up our policies about how we, do free classrooms or free building usage and what that looks like, we're gonna need to tighten that up. We can approve this when it comes to that time, one way or the other, whatever we decide to do, but then we're gonna need to come back and really look at our policy, and then at some point, all the ones on this list may go away, and you may have to start over with our new policy. Does that make sense?
And that use of facilities, Mike, doesn't that go to the school?
This will come back before you. Typically, this list comes before them.
We do at the beginning,
Yeah.
around July for the new year.
But the revenue, does that go to the individual school that's being rented? See, so that was a complaint I got, I've heard from
It's
some.
broken up, 80%,
Okay.
80% goes to the school,
Right.
10 superintendent, 5 to custodial, 5 to plant services.
Because I've heard some concerns from some, building leaders that when we give that away for free, it takes away an opportunity for that revenue to come in. Now, whether it's gonna come in or not, I don't know, but that is.
And I would agree with you, if we had other people asking, hey, I'd like to pay, to use the space. I think my questions that when this was first brought to my knowledge, being a newer school board member, was that Ms. Massaro said that there's a program that's going to guarantee that the kids who enter this are going to be on level reading by the end. But yet what you're saying is there isn't really a formal curriculum, and that is being delivered by people who are not educational professionals, right? The college. We have summer programs that are going away and affecting some of our teachers who are, use that to supplement their income. So my concern is, are we welcoming something that, kind of works against maybe some of the need to support our staff, and that if it's a reading program, then there should be curriculum provided for us to review. If it's not a reading program and it's more about inspiring them to stay in school because of certain exposure to careers, that's a different animal altogether.
It's both. It's the reading does not have to be taught by teachers. That's number one. All right. That, you say that the parents should be involved with their reading, don't you? All right. So that's number one. Number two, the books are interesting to these kids, so they get involved in these books, and it's not just about reading the content of the books, it's about writing and speaking as well. That is literacy, reading, writing, and speaking.
So as a former educator, I will say that we have libraries full of tens of thousands of books, right? The teachers do every effort to ensure that the reading material is not only rigorous, but also of high student interest, allowing choice. That alone is not going to have a student who is 3 years behind in reading all of a sudden be on grade level.
But it's not going to happen just like that.
And that's
their
my question.
Their interest, number one, inspires them to do better in school. Don't ask me how, except that it is about their social, emotional intelligence.
And
so if you're learning that you're
very
important,
yes.
if you're learning in order to be, do, or have the things that you want in your life, that you must do certain things, you're more inclined to work at it.
And I understand all these things, but what I think is what I'm concerned about is the broadness of your program.
Yes.
We're asking for what is the end goal result after this time here, and how do we measure that?
It's to build a
determine-
relationship.
Okay,
it's to
but
inspire the kids.
and-
It is also to start them thinking that it's important to read.
But the flyer that's
to
been
do well.
presented to us to
Yes.
review to the community says
Yes.
it's literacy and leadership.
Correct.
Right, so it seems like it's very broad. I think if we're going to open our doors to something, we need to ensure that it follows.
So may I ask a question?
Yes.
I think for, is there, so this item is on for April 22nd. Is there any information that you as a board are requesting that will help you to be able to make your decision by then. Because I think that we treat this item, because this purpose of this time is not for us to like agree or disagree or whatever, but we treat this item just like we treat any other item that the district will be bringing before you to say, okay, this item is in 2 weeks. Either we're bringing before you some additional information so you can make a decision in 2 weeks, or this item is not happening in in 2 weeks.
I would like to
need it
see
in a
the
few
curriculum and references of some of the schools that they've worked with, maybe at least 3 in the past 3 years.
I don't have time for that.
I'm with Janie.
We're
But this
on
will be
our
provided
movement.
to you.
That's okay, you can table it right now. We don't have time
I'm
for
not
that. You know,
tabling it.
we are on the move down in Volusia County right now. What I wanted to hear is yes or no, so that we can move forward
So just
here.
to clarify, this is a workshop. The
I
time in
understand.
which we would actually vote yes or no is at a different school board meeting.
Got
This
you.
is where we collect the
I
information
understand.
and we say, hey, this is what I need to make a decision. We've got to go back and reference things,
Okay,
ask our
so-
lawyer,
so
and things like that.
From what I'm hearing is that you would like curriculum, a schedule, like a tentative schedule of what this looks like mapped
Right.
out, and then some data that we can review, school that it is, and at that time, Dr. Benzo can either provide that information and we be moving forward, or if Dr. Benzo
And not necessarily
withdraws that
that,
request
I
at
would
that
like
time.
to have like references from the schools that this program has been
references, I'm
held.
sorry, yes.
Right,
But
because,
then-
you know, also, if we're saying, well, this is first come, first serve, and that you're, is it first come, first serve, and you're inviting a select population, or is it first come, first serve to anybody who's
It's
invited?
open to all of them.
So then how do you know that those students were at risk of dropping out?
There's questions on the
But then it's not first
application.
come, first served. Are you going through applications saying no to this one, yes to this
Most of the parents are
one?
aware that this is a program that is for children that are struggling in school.
Okay, because
And
that
so-
is not apparent on the flyer, though.
Okay.
The flyer doesn't say it's for
But you're
dropout
making this so, difficult.
Because these are
This is
important
about a
things.
relationship. You see, this is the problem with schools,
Okay.
that you want to be so detailed that you take the humanity out of the relationships. So one thing is that this is a trusted
I'm going to ask
experience.
for a
Hold up.
point of order, board,
Excuse
that
me.
I
Yes,
feel
okay.
like this.
Hold up, let me
communication has
finish.
Ms.
become
Benzo, just,
Let me
Ms. Benzo,
finish.
please
Let
just
me
pause,
finish.
just pause for a second.
All right?
Ms. Ruddy.
Many of your students are coming to this in
Dr.
Daytona.
Benzo.
Dr. Benzo, we need to speak in order, and I want to give you, I want you to be able to answer everybody's question. Ms. Ruddy, did you have a thought to complete there?
To a point of order.
I was calling a point of order.
Right.
I feel like the communication is becoming hostile and non-productive.
Well, that's usually what you like to say. But what I'm trying to say here is this. We are attempting to build a relationship with your students that they feel they don't have in the schools. And by doing that, they're willing to try to move forward in their school experiences. Their parents make a point of reporting back to us that during the year, they're doing better. Now, we don't have the money at this point to follow through with all of those things, but we do know this, that I can tell you, they are graduating from high school. That is number one, to say that it is working in some way for these young people. Not only are they're graduating from high school, but they're going to college. They're going into the military. They're becoming officers in the military. These are the same kids whose parents have said that they couldn't do well. Now, the rest of the detail that you're talking about, we can do in time, but not right now, because we don't have the funds for
Ms.
it.
Benzo, that's my contention, is exactly what you said, time. I don't believe,
I
to
understand.
satisfy, I'm only speaking for my District 2C right now.
I understand.
I do not feel there is an adequate amount of time even for myself, to vet this program to in a way that I could say, yes, let's roll this out this summer.
That's fine.
And that's that's
I
just the
understand
truth of the
that.
matter
Yes.
from my perspective, because I know that in 2 weeks, I cannot review all your curriculum and the program
I understand.
before our next meeting.
And I cannot provide it because I have to move on to other things at this point. If we had done this a little earlier, and we did have the time to do this, we were just waiting for the answers. Ms. Massaro would be best to give you the details of what we have done since September with this. We could have done this, given you that information, but we just can't do it now. And I understand that.
With all due respect, though, if you've had a program for 8 or 9 years, you would have the curriculum, the syllabus, the outline, the learning goals, the resources
do.
to share with us.
But we don't have it in the detail that you are going to want. I mean, we know what we're doing week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and week 6.
Well, can we do this? Tim, can you provide the information that you do have for us to make a decision for that? What you do have? Because you have some information, because I hear
Yeah,
you
this
say-
is what we go by every year.
And I think that's fair for us to look at.
If it's a literacy program, we just want to
Absolutely.
see like what that entails.
I think that's-
And one thing, though, is that we have to look at this here. We've all asked for certain things to be provided, and it doesn't seem like it can be provided in the timeline that we're giving Ms. Benzo. So my point is here, boards, is that if we know we cannot get the information that's going to satisfy us to make this decision, then maybe this agenda item should be tabled and then reviewed on a broader scale as a board to say, hey, what is our direction? What is our vision of this here? Do we want to implement a program? And then put out a request to the community to bring these programs
But then we
with full.
do own it, and then
Well, but that's my
it's not a
point.
separation.
But we either
I don't
want
agree
to-
with that, because
Well, no.
I feel like we do open our doors. The difference here is that they are going to provide some instruction.
No, you're
and that
misunderstanding my
forms the
point,
line.
Ms. Woody. I'm saying, we have to decide whether that's what we want to do or not do. You see what I mean? Do we want to have an initiative like that and open it up with use of facilities, or do we not as a board? That's my point, is that right now we
But
have.
we do have a history of that.
Yeah, of course, but this is a new board. And what our direction is our direction. And is the direction that somewhere we want to go, or do we continue to just do it as we've been doing it? You want to
That's
have
a different
Miss Ruddy,
question
Miss
than
Ruddy,
someone
please
asked,
don't
though.
interrupt me. As a district, do we want to continue having programs come to us and use the policies we have in place through use of facilities, right? If we want to do something other than that, that is what we have in place right now. If we want to move on and have, like Mr. Bars said earlier, if we want to be able to do this and offer space, we have to set up, a rubric, some matrix. Something has to be in place that we can be fair to the community, because it's not fair to the community just to one-off say, hey, for you, you get it, and there's no benchmark here. Because otherwise, we're going to open up the door to potential issues in the future when it comes to this matter, setting precedents. So go ahead, Ms.
However,
Ruddy.
in all
You may respond.
fairness, this organization is asking for use of facilities under our current processes and platform and organization that we've already established. What you're saying is almost proposing a whole new project to say, well, now we need to go back and evaluate this, or even determine if we want to have a summer program that we outsource. So I would think that it's unfair to this organization to say, well, no, we're going to take this as an opportunity to change our processes and policies. With this organization, I think that they should have the ability and fairness to just provide the curriculum that they have for review, whatever that may be, and a reference from the people that they work in at Volusia, and then we can move forward and make a decision.
Yeah, but just going back to what you just said, Ms. Ruddy, it is not what I was implying. I'm not saying that's the direction I want to go. I'm talking, we were a board, right? Nothing happens here unless 3 of us wanted to go forward. My point is that we have to choose a direction as a board where we're going with this here.
Are you
Right.
asking, like,
No,
right now?
No.
are we- okay.
But I'm saying, my point is, we've all asked for information of Ms. Benzo. She's clearly told us she does not have the time to provide that within the time frame that we're requesting it. So my point is do we continue this on into our next meeting? Or do we pull this from the agenda because we're not going to be able to get the data that we, now I welcome Ms.
know that.
Benzo to,
So as of right now.
Give her
so
the
today,
opportunity.
Yeah, today is the 8th. Dr. Benzo would have until the 11th to provide the information until the 14th for any corrections that is needed. That will be 1 week out from us going live to you as a board. And what I have that the request for Dr. Benzo is what is happening, what the focus is each week, which is the schedule.
Yeah, we got that.
The curriculum, if there's any curriculum that is used, and reference it, any data for the years in Volusia, and references at the different schools that they have. And to be clear, Ms. Ruddy, when you say reference, you mean I was at Rimfire Elementary, LaShakia Moore was the principal, that is a person that I can contact about this program.
Yes, like or even a statement from the principal or the school leader, or maybe that they've had good experiences, good outcomes, good community sentiment from this program.
yeah. So
have that
again,
request.
I'm just going to ask again, because the answer we got before was no. But Ms. Benzo, will you be able to provide this information?
I can provide it, but not now. I need to get on with what we're doing down in Volusia right now.
Yeah, with the dates that she's provided.
By April 11th, for it to be able to become.
I can speak to Ms. Brown and ask her. She's the director down in
So
Volusia
we've
County.
made it fair. They can either comply with that in order to be able to continue to move
If
forward.
it's not
Can we
prepared-
vote on that as a board so we can move on?
No, we have direction
I
right
just
now
wanna
for
move
our
forward.
normal course of business will be if the information is ready and available by the time we go live for the meeting, which will be April 14th, in order for us to go live on April 15th, it will be on the agenda for you as a board.
But honestly
If it's
now,
not, then,
we're delayed by another week.
well, the board cannot take action until April 22nd.
I understand that. I do.
Yeah.
We
And that
haven't
will-
delayed it at all. That would have
Yes.
been the date that it would
That's
have
the-
had a
yes.
normal decision.
That's the date, regardless of what, April 22nd is the date.
Because
So
Dr.
it's not a
Benzo, we
delay.
can't speak with each other about this topic unless we are physically in the same room. So none of us have been able to talk about this until today.
I understand.
So that's for like our challenge, you know.
And then
is
we
that-
still have the issue of the rooms being made available to us for free. That's still
That will
another
be
issue.
April
That would be
22nd
April
will be the
22nd,
date.
that's
that
No,
we
but I'm
decide.
just saying, that's still an issue, right?
We would make a vote of that.
That's what the vote
That's what the vote is
would be
for.
about.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So that, what we're asking is if you provide all that information to us, so that we can have that to review, so that it would become a vote on the 22nd on whether or not this is going to happen.
Right.
So,
Close, what is the date of closure for the schools?
sorry.
May 29th is the last day, half day.
So you're basically, we're still dealing with the same time as the academy that starts down in Volusia. So I think we are, in all fairness right now, to all of us, that we should just stop right here, okay? And we'll start again after August when we're finished with the other academies.
And it will be the same board, so they will be still
Yeah,
requiring the same
because we
information.
just, I don't, it's too much. I'm still raising funds. And we have to get staff, we have to orient them and get them going. So, and this would be the first time up here. And so I personally would be the one supervising this academy with the site director.
Okay.
So
Well, then,
I
so-
think that we need to hold it right
Okay,
here.
so we'll withdraw this from the agenda
Thank
for
you.
the next meeting. And we welcome you, though, to continue to educate us with this program, with that information. You can just send it directly to the school board members, so we can review this stuff, because, if we revisit this for next school year, we'll have been more educated about the program.
Okay.
Okay?
So we will send it after
Yeah, You
We're
can send it at
finished
your
with the other
leisure,
academy.
because it won't be till next
Right,
year
because
anyway, so.
Same thing, she's involved in, interviewing and hiring, and we are she's meeting with the site directors down in Volusia County, and they're putting together the program. So I wouldn't put it on her either. So after we're finished.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
visit
Benjamin.
again.
Dr.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
What?
Benzo.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, let's see where we left off here. All right, so that concludes all of our business for today and leads us to the final public comment section. Do we have anybody?
Yes, Michelle Brody.
Okay. Please come forward, Ms. Brody.
All right, good evening, afternoon.
Welcome.
Morning.
All right.
Wake up.
You're able to talk on any topic, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, so I'm Phyllis Pearson, and I'm glad to be here all the time because we're close to you, we're close to kids. And so I'm just here to take a minute. Thank you very much, Superintendent, for when I left the meeting the last time at your career, and I said to this young lady, please go find the superintendent, introduce yourself. So I just want to say that the superintendent took some time to meet with myself and Mr. AJ. He's our NAACP vice. He's not able to be here right now because he's like traveling. However, one of the things we did is talk about the needs, to how we can support, the district with. We do mentoring from the different ones, mentoring kids. We've been doing for years now at Flagler, mentoring in school and out of school. So I really want to continue my mentoring with the kids, and we just wanted to make sure that mentoring the young men and the young ladies is still okay to do, which we have, get the training. Ms. Teresa and those train us up. So we have a young lady here, Ms. Brody, who is working as our NAACP education committee person. She's worked in Detroit.
No, New York City. I'm a retired New York City public school teacher.
The Detroit person actually has an actual school, et cetera, and she's up the back and forth here with us too, so they're going to collaborate. But I just wanted to introduce Ms. Brody because she has a great background in education and the curriculum, et cetera, working with kids. And I wanted to make sure to come and say, is it okay that we come and meet with you a little bit to find out how we can support, especially parents, in, the needs that they may have, struggles that they may have. So hopefully that'll be okay with you. But I needed you all to know who she is.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're
waiting this meeting.
You wanted to say a couple of things?
Well, thank you. I feel very welcomed here. I have been reviewing some of the board meetings. I have met with the superintendent, and I also have a child in Matanzas High School, and we've been here a year and 6 months, and we absolutely love the school. I moved to this town because, one, I like the people, the beautiful town, and out of all the places that I looked at in Florida, I looked at the schools, and I was impressed. And it's not easy to impress me. 27 years in the classroom, mentor for the local school district, my local school, and the whole New York City Board of Ed Central. I've also have educational leadership. I've taken extensive courses in that. So I am I've done many different programs, and I've also wrote for after-school programs, and I can go on and on for days, but education is my first love. So I'm looking forward to supporting the wonderful schools here. I'm so happy to be here. You can't believe it.
No, thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank
that.
you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys are doing a wonderful job.
Nice being in support of the
Thanks
young
for hanging
people
out
and the
so long.
parents.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing us to continue to serve. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Okay, so that leads us to board member requests. Are there any board member requests?
I had, I don't know if it's discussion, so on May 27th, we have a meeting, and I have a 5th grade promotion to go to at the same time. So I was wondering if I could be excused, or if that's something we should move the meeting, if there's anything important that I need to be here. Unfortunately, it's at the exact same time, so I won't be able to.
I actually won't be here that day either.
Thank you.
But we have a
So
school
that's-
board meeting on that day?
We have our 1 o'clock information. We
Yeah.
could try to find a different day, or because that's your
earlier.
information, we can look at addressing the items at your agenda meeting, which would be the June meeting. So not having that 1 o'clock, you would still have your agenda meeting before you have your action meeting.
I plan to be here at 6 o'clock though. It's just.
Yes,
that
we will still
Yeah.
have our 6 o'clock. What it would do to your schedule, if you do not have the 1 p.m. meeting, that meeting, the items that would be covered at that meeting would be covered on June 10th, at your June 10th meeting.
Is there any time sensitive things on that agenda?
I don't have that one before me, but we can have that
All right.
information.
Because I can
I'm
adjust
fine
the
with that.
time,
Yeah.
it's just one,
Yeah.
I'm assuming 1 to 2.
Yeah, and
I'm-
I have no problem moving it, but just, we'll do,
And we'll
so
have some
we'll
time.
hold our,
I
we'll
mean,
hold
I'd
the
like to
6,
be
and
here,
then-
because I know this is.
and
I mean,
as long as
I
there's
don't-
gotta be there for
no
your kids,
time-sensitive
but I-
things, we can roll it.
Yes.
But otherwise, we may have to have a special meeting or.
Can we
change the
look
date.
at, be prepared to discuss it at the April 22nd agenda meeting?
Yes.
To see if we need to just adjust the time?
Okay, perfect.
And we'll have a better projection of what will happen at that May meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then, one thing, and again, it's not time sensitive, but I just was wondering, if we wanted to look at as a board in the future. I know we have a lot on our plate right now, but, I know a few years ago, they started having the SRDs at the information workshops. So I was wondering if that's something we wanted to look at, like cost-wise, not the school board meetings, not the 6 PM, but for the day ones. And again, I wasn't here when, I know we didn't have them, and then we did, and now I know we have them. But I'm just wondering if potentially, do we need them? Do we want them? And maybe we can talk about that. Because just like with overtime, and it's about $400 or so a month. So just kind of throwing it out there for everyone to think about. And
I'm open to that.
just,
We have it ready.
You got it down? Okay.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. So that will leave us to upcoming board topics.
Yes, and I do apologize. There was, on the bottom of your board brief is a list of all of the current upcoming board topics and when those items will be coming. So they're not here listed in that item, but we do have them all recorded and we have them mapped out coming forward.
Okay.
oh, and one more thing. I just wanted to say, the Buddy Taylor Middle School guidance counselor. So
Oh, yeah.
I know we all were thinking about it, but just wanted to,
Sure. You
so
gotta
Miss
mention that in
Randy.
your closing
Ashton,
comments. Yeah, that might be a good
All right,
time to,
yeah.
you can expand
Sorry,
a little
today's
bit
been a
more.
long meeting.
I
so-
know it has.
I didn't want, I have it on my notes.
It's been
I
a good
didn't
one though,
forget.
but
All right.
we had a lot to cover, so
Yeah.
it was merited. So, okay, so we'll just move then to closing comments.
So that,
Ms. Ramirez, go
yeah,
ahead.
so, and I know we all were thinking about it, and just wanted, thoughts and prayers from all of us to the family, to the schools. And I know our guidance counselors are on it, so we have a really good support team. So, yep.
Yeah.
Ms. Ruddy?
I just wanted to thank all of the facility plant maintenance folks who were there supporting the Old Kings league that we had, as well as Ms. Moore, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And also the leadership at Old Kings and the teachers for moving their materials and also, having to undergo the loss of some of their instructional supplies. So we're moving through that as a team. You guys have done really well, and I appreciate all of the extra effort there. Also wanted to wish a happy Assistant Principals Week to all of the assistant principals in the county. So make sure you're extra kind to them this week. And that there is There is a bill that is making its way that I think that the public should pay particular attention to, as it would cut some of the funding to some of the programs like AP, ACE, IB, and those ironically are the exact same programs that feed into school scores. So if you have a question on the bill, I can give you the number. It escapes me right now. It must be 3.5 hours of meeting there. But also, reach out to your representatives. They do act and respond when they know that the community cares about a particular issue. And this one, I think, is really important. I also want to extend my condolences to Ms. Fashion's family. I worked with her for several years, and that's a big blow, a big loss. She's an amazing human and had done so much for so many students as well as fellow teachers, and so just keep her memory alive, and every time we help students and bring a little joy to the world. She's an amazing person. Thank you.
I just pretty much will say the same thing they have. I thought it was pretty impressive about the work that was done at Old Kings, and then reaching out and talking to the principal there, that everybody has just adjusted and has done such a fantastic job. And your team, Mr. Bush, just talking to others, just a fantastic job for what you all do. And then again, just from a staff perspective, just anytime you reach out, whether you make a phone call, whether it's a public officials calling and needing something, reaching out to like Miss O'Brien, someone needed something to reach back out to, and just the responsiveness is just amazing. I just want to, share that with our community, with the staff that we have and what they're doing. And then I just spoke with Miss O'Brien just a little bit ago, had the opportunity to spend some time out at Flagler, East Flagler Mosquito Control, and their educational pieces that they're wanting to come back into our district. And so I'll pass that information on to Ms. O'Brien to get it to the right people. But the partnerships, again, is what I'm saying with our community who want to be involved with our education of our students. I know that was kind of contentious today a little bit about what we have Dr. Benzo, but I think just for the public standpoint of us, how we're really trying to make sure everything is in line and we're treating people, fairly, as you said. And I think that's extremely important that we have to dig deep into the weeds at times to try to get to a good solution of what that looks like. And so I applaud her and the efforts that we're trying to do to really advance all students in Flagler County and how important that is. And Ms. Phyllis, you sitting out here and the work that you all and your team do as well is extremely important. So I just look forward to us continuing that relationship. So that's all I have at this point.
I'll just echo everyone's comments and save any of them.
Save it for later.
Yeah, so I'll do the same. So, but yeah, definitely condolences to our employees' family, and praying for them. Superintendent Moore?
Yes, I too, the Old Kings leak, I have a different definition of leak. But it is amazing when you have an opportunity to see our individuals work in response to different things that come up. And so I was there in my stylish water boots. The shoes that I came in were not appropriate for what was necessary. And so Plant Services did equip me with some lovely up-to-the-knee boots. But to that team, that administrative team, they did a fantastic job. And to those educators in that space, if you've had an opportunity to meet a elementary educator, really all of our educators, but those primary educators, second to their firstborn is their classroom. And so to have that damage, and we're working together to make sure that we can replace those academic items for those individuals. to Randy and just her family and all the work that she has done for this organization. And regardless of what it is or what it was that she was facing, she showed up for our students and gave them her very best, and she did that for our staff as well. And we just appreciate her family and the sacrifices that they've made for educating students. It's Assistant Principals Week, and I just want to say to Mr. Barrs, your comment around what this board is doing in order to make sure that we can be consistent in our approach when things come before you. I just think it's fitting after a long day of meetings for us to end with our guiding principles and remind this organization and our community what our guiding principles are. And they are children first, trust and respect for all, empower others, teamwork, excellence, quality, and consistency, commitment to individuals' needs, and then get to yes. But I always add, it is easy to say yes, but we have to be able to say yes in a manner that will allow us to say yes to the people that follow. So within a well-defined system so that we can continue to say yes. Have a great night.
Well said. Thank you, Superintendent Moore. This meeting is adjourned.